Demon. These two words also split the brains of other protagonists. It was like a blast of thunder, exploding in the minds of these protagonists. Blow them up. Hearts are shaking. Under the impact of Sumo's terrifying demonic breath at close range, the brains of these protagonists are almost frozen. The movement of thoughts became stagnant. Even thinking becomes slow. As if time had frozen, there is only shock and horror that cannot be described in words. How is this possible? At the forefront, the Ring Flow protagonist's face is full of disbelief. Behind him, the other protagonists have also been greatly impacted. The Earl of the Black Stone territory is actually a demon god. This FCK. It's just as outrageous as it was to blow up firecrackers, only to find that a nuclear bomb exploded. It is simply out of the world, even if you see it with your own eyes. These protagonists are all shocked one by one. Some protagonists are already beginning to doubt life. In the crowd, Li Fei and Han Yu, the two protagonists in the palace guards, had their eyes almost bursting. Han Yu has long felt that sumo is not as simple as it seems. However, he never expected it. Sumo's is not easy, it is so easy. The other side of sumo is so scary, terrifying to despair. Demon God. Don't talk about the devil, now they are as weak as ants in front of the sanctuary. A sanctuary stomps and stomps, one can be trampled to death. It can be said that if Miles is not afraid of implicated himself, before, even using the sanctuary to forcibly kill some protagonists is actually feasible. However, in that case, their family is bound to offend the Queen and the Holy See. In the future, he will gradually lose power in the New Moon Kingdom. This is something that Miles, a self-proclaimed chess master, who likes to lay out and manipulate everything, cannot tolerate. The sanctuary is so terrifying to these protagonists, like an insurmountable mountain. Not to mention, the devil. A sanctuary is not much different from an ant in front of the devil. The devil wants to kill the sanctuary, stomping his feet, he can also trample to death. Even if the strength of this demon god in the world of gods is suppressed to a false god. How is this possible? Li Fei's mind was full, and only these words were left. He couldn't believe his eyes at all. The same is true for the other 12 protagonists. Each and every one of their eyes squinted to the maximum, and their brains were full of incredible, and the blood on their bodies coagulated. Their mood is also extremely complicated. You must know that after they witnessed the miracle of the new moon goddess before, they were all excited. Full of ambition. For the power of God, there is an incomparable desire and yearning for it. It's like being beaten by chicken blood, everyone is eager to ascend to the throne. Become a supreme god. For them, as long as they don't die, it's only a matter of time before they become gods. With all kinds of gold fingers, it can be said that all roads lead to Rome. However, in a blink of an eye, they didn't pay much attention to it before, and after making some speculations, the little Earl felt that it was difficult to deal with. He turned into an extremely powerful demon. One, the ultimate dream before them. They also thought that all roads lead to Rome, but the other side is already standing in Rome. At this time, Sumo did not fly into the sky, and the actual position was still in front of them. But in their eyes, Sumo is already incomparably tall, as if he has reached the highest point in the world, looking down at all beings with indifferent eyes. That was the scene they imagined and were intoxicated with. But now, they have become the object of being looked down upon. They became the beings who were looked down upon. Even if they clearly feel that they are standing at the same height as each other and want to see each other, they have to look up. This feeling makes these protagonists despair. The difference is too big, they are still in the dust. The other party has already reached the sky, where the stars and the moon are plucked, and the rays of light are billions of meters. Such a difference. This FCK. How's it going? Across from them, Miles' face changed the same way. Originally, in Miles' view, Sumo's biggest support was the Queen of the Crescent Moon. An earl who relied on soft rice to rise to the top. The Queen's man, who sounds glorious, can also borrow a lot of power from the Queen. However, it is far from being on a par with the Duke who holds the power in his own hands. The power is in one's own hands. Such Sumo has also become a thorn in their eyes, and the other Duke heirs also want to take this opportunity to get rid of Sumo. until Sumo appeared and released the sanctuary soul through the silver ring. This made Miles admirable. This guy also instantly speculated that Sumo was most likely the villain, Phantom, who completed the first kill. To be able to complete the first kill, but also to kill so many protagonists, to raise the ring to silver. Such Sumo is definitely not easy. Then, he moved the love talent, heart. A starting point is not high, but in a short period of more than 10 days, he was abruptly killed to become a silver-level villain. Such talent is rare in the world. Through the former controller of a Fortune 500 listed company, Miles believes that in this world, no one can compare with his own wisdom. In his opinion, within the so-called legendary sanctuary, no matter how strong the power is, it cannot compare to him in terms of wisdom and strategy. The lower ones work hard, the middle ones work hard, and the upper ones work hard. These powerhouses in this world, in Miles' eyes, are just some stupid fellows. Although he holds a powerful power, he is limited by the inherent social system, and his power is simply blinded. Such a world is also the stage for a person with both ambition and strength like him. It is precisely because of this that this guy has planned this huge plan to mess up the new Moon King. If it wasn't for Sumo, this guy's plan would probably have been successful. Think about it, if the goddess of the new moon does not come down to a powerful angel in advance. Just relying on the new moon queen and that demigod, even if they cooperate with the temple, trying to block the spike demon god for so long is simply impossible. It's not that Sumo made the new moon goddess vigilant. The long nail devil may have succeeded now, and then went away. This Miles is indeed a ruthless character, desperate to achieve his goals, even the devil dares to use it. But Sumo, who has a silver ring, made Miles look up to him. Even the heart of support, such Sumo makes Miles look down on other partners in an instant. Originally, Miles thought Sumo was interested. But he never thought about it, it was just his self-righteousness. From the beginning to the end, Sumo is not in his logic at all his layout, in Sumo's place, is so ridiculous. Sumo is actually a demon. Such a thing, even Miles, a scheming guy who has been calculating for a lifetime, has never imagined it. The brain is completely frozen. The terrifying oppression brought by the breath of the devil made it difficult for him to even think. So close contact with a god, especially if this god is still hostile, for ordinary people, losing the ability to think is just the most normal thing. Not being an idiot is a good thing. Miles turned his thoughts with difficulty, he had faintly realized that. This game of chess with the new Moon King is the chessboard and everyone is the chess pieces, although he played extremely wonderfully. But in Sumo's hands, I am afraid there is another chess game that is 10,000 times bigger than his game. That game of chess is the real chess. Now that he is so big, he can only get a glimpse of it, but he can't know the whole picture. All his layouts, all his plans, have become a small pawn in the opponent's chess game. When realizing this, Miles felt an unprecedented sense of frustration in his heart. Sumo's strength and power only frightened him, but not frustrated him. This guy even dares to trade with the devil, and dares to treat the devil as a pawn. How could he be frustrated because the opponent is strong? But when realizing that such a grand layout had actually become a pawn in the Sumo chessboard, Miles' sense of frustration was stronger than ever. It was so strong that he seemed to have aged countless years at once. So, am I the pawn? Miles showed a wry smile, and deep despair appeared in his heart. That was the kind of despair that he would not have even if he faced another demon god. This is the deepest despair, desperate to the point of despair. Miles felt that even if he repeated the game 1,000 times, 10,000 times, he would not be able to break the chess game. Then, in such despair, his body quietly shattered. At the same time, the sanctuary of the Miles family let out an unwilling roar, but it didn't have the slightest effect. His whole body strength has been completely locked, and his consciousness has already fallen. Next second, the body of this sanctuary was burning with flames. This old man who has been a sacred place for many years, the biggest support in the Miles family, just like this, in the rising flame, he instantly turned to ashes. While Miles in this sanctuary died, behind Sumo, the 14 protagonists who were deeply shocked and also felt the deep despair, also quietly turned to ashes. Sumo didn't leave them much time. Not 2 inked either. Even without saying a word, the power of the devil has been revealed, and it is the best choice to get these protagonists at one time. After those protagonists turned to ashes, their despair and shocking thoughts remained in the air. And then completely washed away under Sumo's devilish breath. Gone. The next second, Sumo shot with all his strength. The luck belonging to the 14 protagonists was dragged wildly by Sumo. Now he, in fact, is not full of firepower, because he still retains a trace of human blood. Otherwise, the villain panel can't come out, and he can't capture the gold finger of these protagonists. In addition, if he is full of firepower, even if he deliberately suppresses, this field can't bear it at all. The sanctuary is dead, the realm is already collapsing. For Sumo, time is enough. The luck of the 14 protagonists was all taken by Sumo in just 10 seconds. You killed a bronze-level protagonist and gained 100 villain value and 10 luck value. You killed a bronze-level protagonist and gained 100 villain value and 10 luck value. You have killed 10 protagonists in total, and gained an additional villain value of 100 and luck value of 10, 35. You have killed 10 protagonists in total, and your villain's identity and location will be revealed in 30 minutes. You killed a bronze-level villain. On the reverse account panel, a large number of beeps sounded. This wave, the gain of the villain value is not small. Putting these 14 protagonists in one pot, the harvest is naturally a lot. After killing 10 protagonists in total, you will also get an extra 100 villain points and 10 luck points. In addition, after killing 10 protagonists, the identity of the villain will be completely revealed 30 minutes later. Also leaves a 30-minute buffer. This, to Sumo, doesn't really matter. Because in the New Moon Kingdom, his identity could not be hidden. Even those protagonists who did not come to the capital and hid in other places, as long as time passed, they would know that the Count of Moishi Land was the villain. Because of the special nature of his territory and the things he invented, Sumo himself is an open villain in the Crescent Kingdom. As for the whole world of gods, if you know his identity, you will know. At this stage, no one has been able to reach out to other kingdoms. Even if he can reach out, it is the protagonist or villain of other kingdoms who is afraid of Sumo, not Sumo who is afraid of each other. Sumo didn't look at his villain panel, because he is trying his best to take the luck of these protagonists. While grabbing luck, Sumo also grabbed all their gold fingers. These gold fingers have entered the villain panel one after another. There are many types of gold fingers. There are several different types of systems, a bronze ring, and several talents. Sumo wasn't in a hurry for the inclusion. After getting rid of these protagonists, he has other things to do. It's not too late to compile it later. After killing all the protagonists here, and putting all the gold fingers into the villain panel. As soon as Sumo's hand moved, he put Lois, who was still a little confused, back into the silver ring. Then, the only trace of human blood in his body completely dissipated. The villain panel also disappeared. Now he has completely become a powerful demon. The breath that belongs to the devil is no longer suppressed. At the same time, a strong demonic energy also enveloped him. In this way, even if the new moon goddess is in front of him, don't even think of recognizing him. And then, the breath of the devil rose into the sky. In an instant, it will break through this already crumbling field. Soar to the sky. A large area around him was filled with a strong demonic aura. The aura of this demon god caused an incomparably great movement. Ha ha ha, succubus demon god, you are finally here, your speed is much slower than mine. In the sky, the happy laughter of the long-nailed demon god resounded. This stupid big man still has too few means. If he is given enough time, he can still break the blockade of these 3 demigods. Forcibly take down the believers in the square. However, with him alone, time is not enough. Now, seeing that Sumo finally made his move, the long-nailed demon god is also extremely happy. There is also a hint of emotion. Although this succubus demon god came out of nowhere. When he came out, he ran to fight him, but it seems to be fine. First, he promised to deal with Lilith, the abyss banshee who had beaten him especially badly. Now, it is even more important to take action at a critical moment. This is a good brother. In the abyss, such a good brother is too rare. The long-nailed demon god suddenly burst into tears. One more. On the square, the face of the angel who was fighting changed dramatically. The queen of the new moon also showed a strong look of surprise on her pretty face. She could hardly hold on. Although God can use his own saintly son and saintess to lower the power, so that the strength of the saintly son and saintess soars. But it didn't last long. After a long time, Queen Crescent's body will definitely not be able to hold on. Even so, if you persist for a while, the goddess will be able to descend. With the large amount of energy stored in the temple, there was still hope. But who knows, another demon god appeared. How to fight now? The 3 demigod-level combat powers have already made their full shots, and they can't tell the difference at all. Otherwise, the long-nailed devil will kill most of the believers in the square. Boom. As soon as Sumo appeared, the devilish aura on his body was further diffused, and almost the entire square was affected by his devilish aura. Those ordinary people in the distance who have fled to the edge, one by one involuntarily fell into the illusion. After he further disrupted the battlefield, he brazenly took a shot and hit the temple that was attacking. If you want the new moon goddess to be more generous later, you have to make her feel bad first. In addition, it is necessary to delay the speed of her arrival. Attacking the temple is naturally the best way. With Sumo's blow, a large number of divine patterns appeared on the surface of the temple. This is no ordinary magic pattern. It's a god pattern. It is a divine pattern drawn by the crescent moon goddess herself. The defensive power of such a divine rune is astonishing. As long as there is enough energy, even a god cannot break through it in a short period of time. Sure enough, these divine patterns lit up, blocking Sumo's attack. However, the entire temple trembled violently. All the god patterns are darkened. No, if it goes on like this, the temple won't last long. Inside the temple, the expressions of a large number of temple maids who were carrying out the summoning ceremony changed drastically. Their summoning ceremony was also interrupted, which was greatly affected. And because of this trembling of the temple's original attack on the long-nailed demon god was also slowed down. The 3 demigods suddenly couldn't stand it anymore. Ha ha ha. Succubus demon god, I recognize your brother. 99. The long-nailed demon god laughed happily. If this temple, 3 demigods, how could it stop him for so long? It's happened. The queen of the crescent moon, the angel, and another demigod, their expressions changed drastically at the same time. On the other side, no one noticed. Below Sumo, a succubus and some abyss creatures quietly appeared. In the hand of this succubus, there is a special artifact. Those abyss creatures brought in a lot of magic stones to supply this artifact. With the operation of the succubus, the artifact was activated instantly. Then, a ghost that was exactly the same as Sumo quietly rushed into the sky and overlapped with Sumo's figure. Boom! Sumo made another attack that shook the temple violently. A large number of divine runes have lost their color. This temple has not lasted long. This demon god is even stronger. The temple can't hold on anymore. The queen of the new moon and the angels are in a hurry, but there is nothing they can do, and they can't hold on anymore. Boom! Sumo's third attack arrives. As soon as the third attack came out, Sumo fell quickly. What replaced him was the ghost that was simulated by the artifact and had exactly the same breath as his. After landing, Sumo restrained his breath and sneaked to the vicinity of the cathedral. Then, all the succubus bloodlines converged. Now, he has once again become a serious human being. Sumo looked at the simulated ghost, smiled, and then he prayed. Next, it's time to act. The 2 demon gods descended, and after being bombarded by him 3 times in a row at the temple, the goddess of the new moon could not descend for a short period of time, and it was not even feasible for angels to descend. Now he has become the only way for the goddess of the new moon to come to the power and turn the tide. The new moon goddess should be very generous, right? What's the matter? So many portraits are grayed out, and they are all dead. At the same time, in the protagonist group with many protagonists, a protagonist discovered the 14 protagonists whose avatars were grayed out, and asked in surprise in the group. There are still quite a few people in that protagonist group. In addition to the protagonists in the capital, there are also some protagonists who have not been to the capital. There are dozens of people. Moreover, the number of people in this group is increasing every day. Because every day some protagonists in Crescent Kingdom find this group and add them. The competition between the protagonists and the protagonists is relatively less intense. Relying on their own gold finger for development, grouping together for warmth in the early stage and communicating more is actually the best choice. Originally, after the 14 protagonists were blocked by Miles, the news sent out in the group made the group extremely lively. The protagonists who are not in the capital are also paying attention to each other. Get up. The protagonist in the royal capital is also related. Note. In addition to these 14 protagonists, there are now 6 protagonists in the capital. Among them, there are also a few in this square, but they did not go with the 14 protagonists, but hid in other places. There are also several hidden in the Holy See headquarters in the Magic Academy. For example, the protagonist of the Sweeping Monk style, this guy is all in the library. Even if it is the blessing ceremony of the new moon goddess, he does not come out. There is also one who was cultivated by the Holy See core, but also did not come out. Another one fought in the Knights of the Temple, not here either. And the incomparably calm silver level protagonist is also not here. These protagonists are also paying attention to these 14 protagonists. Not sure what happened to them. The discussion in the group was also extremely intense. They were discussing what the 14 protagonists encountered. The messages before the 14 protagonists first mentioned Miles and Sanctuary. This made them guess that the 14 protagonists should be surrounded by Myers with the Sanctuary in the family. However, immediately afterwards, a protagonist suddenly exclaimed and said, "Silver ring." He also said that he really killed the silver level. And the protagonist is shouting, "Why is an Earl so perverted?" Although the 14 protagonists did not say who he was. But because of the previous discussion, the protagonists in this group didn't have much effort, so I guessed it. The he mentioned by the 14 protagonists should be the Earl of Moshi Land. The news that the Earl of Moshi Land had killed the silver rank also caused exclamations and discussions in this group. Because they were guessing before, how did the Earl of Moshi Land reach the silver level? From the very beginning, he was rated as silver by virtue of his own hidden strength. Or is it abruptly killed to the silver level? In contrast, the latter is naturally more terrifying. Now, through the news of the 14 protagonists, they have also been confirmed. The Earl of the Blackstone Land was actually killed at the silver level. The news was shocking. However, this discussion is off topic because there is a bigger problem. According to the news of the 14 protagonists, Miles and Sanctuary blocked them. At the same time, the Earl of Moshi Land also appeared. Whether the 14 protagonists can escape the danger has also aroused discussion. Who knows? The discussion was lively, and the avatars of the 14 protagonists suddenly turned gray. On the avatar, a red cross appeared. This is not offline. Instead, it means that the 14 protagonists are dead. Now, in this group of protagonists, it's like a stabbed ant nest, and everyone is shocked. Suddenly, 14 protagonists died, still dead at the Holy See headquarters. These protagonists are not surprised or difficult. There was no message behind the 14 protagonists. Even the power of the demon god was revealed, and Sumo knew that the 14 protagonists could send messages on the protagonist panel with their own thoughts. As a succubus god who is naturally good at spiritual attacks, how could Sumo give them a chance? Under his control, the 14 protagonists could not even turn their thoughts, except that their emotions could change drastically, and it was impossible for them to send messages. Now, he has not yet publicly exposed the strength of the demon god on a large scale. Like this, a small exposure is not a big problem. How did they die? There is the headquarters of the Holy See. Is the villain so arrogant now? Yes, the villains dared to kill people at the headquarters of the Holy See, so how can we get along? Some protagonists who were not in the capital and didn't know much about the situation asked anxiously. Now the headquarters of the Holy See is too chaotic. The demon gods are still attacking. The domain of the sanctuary and the magic circle have cut this place apart. FCK. Why is there still a demon god? A protagonist news is halfway through, and there is no news. I'm going. 2 demon gods? Are the kings so exciting? Is this the rhythm of the new moon kingdom being destroyed by the demon god? This is too magical, don't we have to fight the villain? And the whole kingdom was destroyed by the devil. In the protagonist group, the protagonists in other places screamed in surprise. 14 died at once. It's too cruel, I don't know who killed it. If it was killed by one person, I'll be able to know his identity later. When the other protagonists screamed, a whisper sounded in the library deep in the Holy See. The speaker is the sweeping monk-style protagonist hidden here. This guy is determined to hide here and not go out. For now, he is relatively safe here. This place is located in the core area of the Holy See, and the war has not yet spread to this side. It might be Miles, but it's more likely to be the Earl of the Blackstone territory. I didn't expect that his silver level was really killed. He is more terrifying than I thought. It's just that Miles also brought a sanctuary. What should the Earl of Moishi Land do? Still, they joined forces. The sweeping monk-like protagonist made his own guesses there. Then, he glanced outside the door. Outside the door, the old guy who had been sleeping there all the year round had already left to participate in the battle outside. The sweeper-style protagonist knew that at this stage, the old guy guarding the library was the real sweeper. The strength has been comparable to the sanctuary. This is one of the reasons why the protagonist chose to hide here. The old guy is gone. This is a chance. The book on the second floor extracted him. The protagonist made a decision and went to the second floor with a broom. Boom, on the temple square, the temple in the sky trembled violently again. Sumo's 3 full-strength attacks almost destroyed the temple. It's not easy to change to a demon god to achieve such a victory after 3 attempts. But who let? Has Sumo entered this shrine? Last time, when I entered this temple with Queen Crescent Moon, Sumo was not idle. In secret, he has mastered and cracked many key points of this temple. In addition, in the blessing ceremony of the new moon goddess, Sumo has a certain analysis of the power held by the new moon goddess. Therefore, the power brought by Sumo's attack on this temple is much greater. 3 attacks almost destroyed the temple. Most of the functions of this temple have also been abolished. Even if there is still a lot of energy stored in it, the temple cannot attack. Energy is just energy. Without the divine runes in the temple, these energies simply cannot be transformed into powerful attacks. Your temple is dead, ha ha ha, you are finished. Today, I'm going to destroy a city with long nails. The long-nailed demon god cried out in excitement when he saw that the temple was destroyed by Sumo with 3 blows. He saw the hope of destroying the entire New Moon King. Once the New Moon capital is destroyed, the name of his long-nailed devil will be even louder in the world of gods. It can make more people afraid. What a majestic thing that was to him. Just thinking about it makes him excited. However, immediately, the long-nailed demon god felt that his own pattern. Is it a little smaller? Because, after the temple was destroyed by Sumo so quickly, according to the current style of play, with the succubus demon in him, they can completely destroy the entire New Moon Kingdom. Destroying a city is nothing compared to destroying a country. Destroying a city is only a few million people. Destroying a country would kill hundreds of millions of human beings. If the Crescent Moon Kingdom is destroyed, how loud will he be known as the long-nailed demon god? Hoo-ho. Thinking about it like this, the layout suddenly opens up. As soon as the long-nailed demon god thought of that scene, he couldn't help roaring twice in excitement. I wanted to shout, "Destroy the country," again, but I had already shouted it out just now, and now it seems that the atmosphere is a little out of place. Never mind, I'm going to destroy a country today. The long-nailed demon god is not reconciled, he has to roar to be happy. Opposite, the new moon saint and the angel heard his words, and their faces changed drastically again. They knew that the long-nailed demon god was not roaring. But it is really possible. Even if the new moon goddess comes, and the 2 demon gods are here, I am afraid it will be difficult to stop them. Unless, the new moon goddess can find support. Even if they found support, at that time, the new moon capital had already been destroyed. The 2 looked at each other, even that angel, there was a hint of despair in his eyes. Die. The attack of the spike demon god has arrived. On the other side, the demon god, who had struck the ruined temple with 3 blows and had an equally terrifying aura, also attacked the temple again. With this blow, the temple will be completely destroyed. Seeing that the devil's attack is about to launch. Sudden. In front of the cathedral, a sacred aura rose into the sky. Immediately afterwards, a figure wrapped in holy light suddenly rushed into the sky. This person exudes a terrifying aura. The power of this breath has already surpassed that of a demigod. Vaguely. Has reached the level of false gods. As soon as the figure wrapped in holy light rushed into the sky, it blocked the last blow of the huge ghost against the temple. Roar. How can a false god appear? The long-nailed demon god roared when he saw the figure in the holy light. After his arrival, his strength has been suppressed to a false god. Seeing that it is about to take this place, it can destroy a city or even a country. Let him grow the name of the devil god, which is louder than some congenital devil gods in the abyss. However, at a critical moment, another false god appeared. This pseudo-god gave him the feeling that it was incomparably powerful. The long-nailed demon god gave birth to a strange sense of familiarity. This trace of familiarity is strange. It seems that he is aware of it as a demon spirit. Because it was too strange, the long-nailed demon god didn't care. When he saw it, he saw that the pseudo-god was really powerful, and when he made a move, he actually blocked the big shadow of the succubus demon god. The succubus demon god is being suppressed too much here. The long-nailed demon god suddenly felt bad. The suppression he received was relatively small, because he mainly relied on the divine body to fight. For other demon gods who rely more on energy or other forms of attack, the suppression is even greater. This pseudo-god is obviously a son or daughter of the new moon goddess, who has been elevated by the power of the gods. Not suppressed at all. Succubus demon god, you resist, I will help you right away. 35. The long-nailed demon god roared and increased his attack, preparing to deal with the three demigods first, and then deal with the false god. It's him. On the other side, the queen of the new moon recognized the figure in the holy light almost instantly. It is Sumo. It can only be Sumo. Because the queen of the crescent moon knows that only Sumo can carry the power of the crescent moon goddess. When he first communicated with the goddess of the new moon, Sumo carried the power of a false god. This time, perhaps the situation was too dangerous, and Sumo was carrying more power. The current Sumo, the breath has far surpassed the last time, stronger than the general pseudo-god. A bright smile appeared on the face of the new moon queen. Sure enough, it was he who finally came out to support the overall situation and turn the tide. The one who can stand at the forefront no matter what the difficulties. On the side, the descending angel also found it. We do our best to block one and buy him time. The angel did not talk nonsense, and attacked with all his strength. The other demigod also showed the strength to suckle, and even started to use some life-saving cards. When the three demigods fought against the long-spiked demon god. On the other side, Sumo's attack was overwhelming, and the attack of the ghost on the opposite side looked extremely terrifying. No one dared to approach. This is the battlefield of God, who dares to approach. Even if the sanctuary approaches, there is a danger of being torn apart in an instant. But in fact, if a sanctuary is really close, you will find that these attacks look terrifying, but in fact, there is no power at all. That ghost with a terrible breath on his body is just Sumo's breath simulated by an artifact. That is, a tiger skin. Of course, don't even think about tearing this man in the skin of a tiger. Demigods can be torn apart. After the sanctuary passed, it was barely able to tear it apart. But the legendary level, don't even think about breaking it. Sumo looks like he is fighting this ghost, but in fact, every time Sumo hits, he is bluffing. Then, take the opportunity to swallow a part of the power descended by the goddess of the new moon. It's normal for such a fierce battle to consume a lot of power, right? Even if the battle is over, it is normal for Sumo to swallow all the power descended from the crescent moon goddess. The new moon goddess is really generous this time. Seeing that two demon gods descended, and she was unable to descend for a short time, even the temple was destroyed. The temple is destroyed, and the speed of her descent will be further slowed down. When she arrives, there may be no new moon king. Of course, she could also take a faster approach. That is, she, like the spiked demon god, launched a blood sacrifice at the cost of the lives of a large number of believers. But then, the long-nailed demon god will laugh. If the new moon goddess really wants to do that, her power and divinity will soon be polluted, and she will degenerate into a demon god, and it will be a matter of time. Therefore, after Sumo prayed, the goddess of the new moon accurately sensed the position of Sumo's existence and communicated. The goddess of the new moon also dropped a lot of power without hesitation. This time, the goddess of the new moon descended with more power than the last time. It is also that the power of Sumo has been raised to the level of a pseudo-god in a short period of time. Then, Sumo started to fight with the ghost he created. It's totally beating yourself up. To outsiders, the battle was still extremely fierce. I saw that the attacks on both sides were overwhelming, and the movement was extremely large. And Sumo, in the battle, constantly devoured the power of the new moon goddess. Divine energy madly entered the succubus lineage. This time, much more than the blessing ceremony. His hidden succubus bloodline, after devouring the sacred energy belonging to the goddess of the new moon, is also undergoing rapid transformation. After this transformation is over, his succubus bloodline should be able to transform into the sacred succubus bloodline. An unprecedented bloodline that has never appeared in this world. Die! Sumo shouted, and once again issued a terrible attack. Then, he devoured a large part of the power bestowed by the new moon goddess. It's okay. The Holy See has another strong shot, and another demon god was blocked. In the group of protagonists, one of the protagonists sighed and said, "This protagonist is another protagonist in the Temple Knights. This guy has been with other Temple Knights, and he has not experienced many battles, mainly evacuating and protecting the crowd from the spread of the battle. The demons who rushed directly into the capital with the long-nailed demon god were all very powerful, and the preparatory knights he belonged to were not very qualified to fight against such demons. That is, the demon armies of lower quality outside the capital, they can fight." The protagonist was also worried for a while. The first is to worry that the villain will find him in the chaos. Second, I was worried that the Holy See would not be able to stop it, and the entire new Moon King was destroyed by two demon gods. Now, seeing that another demon god was blocked, he was relieved and quickly reported the good news to the protagonist group. "Chen Yongming, something is wrong. Look at the panel, and then look at the man who fought the devil." 99. At this time, another message appeared in the protagonist group. After the protagonist named Chen Yongming saw the news, he quickly swept to his panel. "I saw the warning notice. The warning reminder has been flashing. After all, the villains in the capital are basically all here. Before it was visible to the naked eye, it was equivalent to face. So he didn't pay attention to the warning notice. But looking at it now, his face has changed. Looking at the face under his helmet wrapped in the sacred light group, his expression suddenly became very 477, colorful. The expression on his face is a little distorted. How is it possible? How could he be the Earl of the Blackstone Land?" The protagonist was shocked. In the protagonist group, there was an exclamation. "What happened? What happened to the Earl of Moishi?" 35. "Brother, don't talk in half. Quickly share the information you know. If you die, we will help you avenge later." In the protagonist group, the other protagonists hurriedly asked. They are not purely for fun. This information itself is at stake with their lives. The more you know about the villains, the better they will be able to fight against these villains in the future. On the temple square, the protagonist named Chen Yongming was still in extreme shock. On the other side of the square here, a protagonist hiding there alone, his face is also full of astonishment. "Impossible," as still in his mouth, because in the protagonist panel of him and Chen Yongming, it was shown that this radiant figure was fighting with that huge ghost. Earl of the Black Stone. When seeing the villain at close range, even if the villain is disguised, the warning on the protagonist panel allows them to see the identity of the other party. The Earl of the Black Stone territory was actually the one who blocked another demon god. This discovery, for the two protagonists, brought too much impact. The impact on them was no longer than the impact when the 14 protagonists found out that Sumo was actually a demon. Because the impact was too great, the two protagonists fell into a semi-sluggish state. As a result, no matter how the other protagonists in the protagonist group called it, they couldn't reply. After a while, the protagonist who first discovered and informed the temple knight Chen Yongming finally recovered. Then, he quickly made the news public in the group. What? Blocking the other demon god is the Earl of Moshi Land, is there a mistake? You really don't have dazzling eyes. Impossible, absolutely impossible. How could the Earl of Moshi Land be so powerful? How could it be only a silver-level villain? At least it must be a gold-level villain. Did you two fall into a demon's illusion? In the protagonist group, the pot exploded in an instant. The protagonists in it all expressed their disbelief. After all, it's so unscientific. A silver-level protagonist just found out before that the Earl of Moshi Land is a silver-level villain. And it was later confirmed that it was the silver-level villain who had risen up by himself. Even if he ascended by himself, it is more terrifying than other Duke-level villains, but it is impossible to soar to the point of fighting against the demon god all of a sudden. Therefore, none of the protagonists believed it, and felt that the two protagonists in the square were probably involved in the battle and had hallucinations. What? The Earl of the Blackstone territory blocked the demon god. At this time, the protagonist of the Sweeping Monk also saw this message. Subconsciously, he didn't believe it either, but he did not rush to deny it, but opened the door and came to a small balcony outside the library. From here, you can see the situation on the other side of the temple. Since Sumo was flying very high, the protagonist of the Sweeping Monk saw a strong holy light in the sky. Look at the main character panel again. The face of the protagonist of the Sweeping Monk also changed drastically. He also saw the message on the main character's panel. That is the Earl of the Blackstone Land, F*Kami. The protagonist of the Sweeping Monk almost jumped up. It's really true, that's really the Earl of Moishi, I saw it in the library too. The protagonist of the Sweeping Monk shouted in the group. I go. Wu Fan saw it too. What the hell is going on? Don't scare me, if it's true, I'm carrying a carriage and fleeing the New Moon Kingdom overnight. I'm ready to go away. The words of the protagonist of the Sweeping Monk immediately surprised the people in the protagonist group. Many protagonists know that he is not in the square. That is, not affected. Even he said so. Isn't that true? F*CK. That's too scary. Don't worry too much, it should be the power of the new moon goddess. At this time, suddenly, in the protagonist group, a protagonist who seldom sends news, sent a message. The power of the new moon goddess. In the protagonist group, many people are confused. Because they know too little about it. Lance, what do you say? There is the protagonist who sees his nickname and asks. God can give power to a holy son or a saint who is extremely devout to himself and can communicate with himself, just like the Queen of the New Moon. After she obtains the power of the new moon goddess, she has the power of a demigod in a short time. I was wondering why the Earl of the Blackstone territory was blessed by the new moon goddess. From this point of view, he should have a very high degree of piety. Therefore, the goddess of the new moon can use his descending power to come down, which will definitely cause a lot of damage to his body. He is taking his life to win the attention of the Holy See. The protagonist named Lance suddenly sent a large paragraph. After the other protagonists read them one by one, they understood the situation and breathed a sigh of relief. It's okay, it almost scared me to pee, me too. But in this way, after the battle is over, the status of the Earl of Moishi Land in the Holy See will be extremely high, right? This time, he is equivalent to turning the whole battle around. There are also protagonists who thought of this. What I care about now is who killed the 14 protagonists. You don't have to worry about the Holy See. The Holy See is doing its best to train me. I am confident enough to become the new Cardinal Archbishop. When the time comes, I will let him stand in the Holy See. Not enough. The protagonist named Lance said solemnly. This guy hasn't spoken much. It turned out that he was the protagonist who was cultivated by the Holy See Corps, and even prepared to be the next red-clothed archbishop. In the Holy See, the status of the saint is naturally very high, after all, she is the most trusted person by God. But the real master and the one who controls the operation of the entire Holy See are still the cardinal. This, Lance, obviously doesn't know yet. Although he was trained by the Corps, Sumo didn't take his life to blog. The purity of the soul is not at the level of the Holy Sun, and it carries the power of God, which is very harmful to the body. But Sumo's soul purity has already surpassed that of the Queen of the Crescent Moon, so it won't hurt at all. This point involves the decision of the goddess, who only knows about the Cardinal Farron and the Queen of the Crescent Moon. Even this Lance, who was trained as the next red-clothed archbishop, did not know. After Lance spoke, although the other protagonists were still in shock, they finally stopped screaming and ran all night. In the protagonist group, the atmosphere was a little more relaxed. It's finally done. When the protagonist group was shocked again, in the holy light in the sky, Sumo showed a smile. In this way, directly swallowing the power descended by the new moon goddess is much faster than the blessing ceremony. His succubus bloodline finally swallowed up more than half of the divine energy. The hidden succubus bloodline swallowed enough energy. Begin to be silent, begin the transformation of bloodline. This transformation process does not last for too long. Once the transformation is completed, the succubus bloodline will officially become the sacred succubus bloodline. Although bloodline is not directly equivalent to strength, according to Sumo's past experience. Whenever the bloodline completes a transformation, his strength will rise. As for the other changes brought about by the metamorphosis of the bloodline, there must be some. For example, the growth rate is faster, the strength of the same realm is stronger, and so on. There are also some changes in the bloodline itself, the bloodline skills, and so on. In short, once the bloodline has been transformed, the benefits to Sumo are numerous. Seeing that the bloodline was already changing rapidly, Sumo attacked again, and then prayed again. The power of the goddess of the new moon descended, he swallowed too much, and the goddess of the new moon had to replenish it. Otherwise, the later play will not work well. Now, the benefits are largely in the bag. Next is the finish. He can say it himself, as long as he pretends to be able to drive away this simulated ghost. But there is still a big stupid man with long nails to solve. With Sumo's prayer, he again felt the channel of communication with the goddess of the new moon. The crescent goddess did not begrudge. A lot of power dropped again. Once these powers are obtained, Sumo's aura is back at its peak. Even, under the interpretation of Sumo, it seems more powerful than before. Looking at the simulated shadow on the opposite side, Sumo's aura exploded again, and he suddenly launched a terrifying attack. On the opposite side, the phantom was hit by this attack, and it suddenly dimmed a bit. At the same time, in the sky, not knowing what the new moon goddess did, a lot of holy light hung down. There are faint signs of opening the passage between the heavens and the continent of the gods. Long nail, retreat, the new moon goddess is coming. Under the control of the succubus, the simulated Sumo's voice was emitted through the artifact. Then, the succubus controlled the magic shadow and jumped violently, rushing out in one direction. Seeing that the phantom retreated like this, Sumo attacked again and attacked the long nail fiend. The spiked demon god roared, and the weapon in his hand shattered Sumo's attack. He glanced at the sky unwillingly. The new moon goddess just made a move, really wanted to come, at least a few more minutes. But the pseudo-god on the opposite side is too strong. The succubus demon god has retreated, he will not leave again, wait for the new moon goddess to come down, and then want to leave without paying some price. It is basically impossible. Wow. Damn it. Sooner or later I'm going to kill this place. After the long-nailed demon god roared viciously, under Sumo's pressing step by step, he finally stopped fighting and rushed towards the mansion. It smashed most of the demons that were still rushing out, and got into the passage directly. A large number of demons also began to retreat frantically. In this battle, the demon dynasty of the long-nailed demon god will lose a lot of demons. The long-nailed demon god also honorably completed his mission. Sumo took the opportunity to swallow the power of the new moon goddess again. The last few blows are too exhausting. The new moon goddess will definitely understand. Sumo stored these divine energies. This is to worry that after the transformation of the bloodline is completed, divine energy is still needed. Chase and kill all these demons. After swallowing, Sumo did not stop, and continued to pursue, preparing to swallow some of the power of the new moon goddess in the process of chasing. Such opportunities will not be many in the future. The fight didn't last long. The demons come fast and retreat fast. The powerful demons escaped the fastest, and the weaker ones couldn't escape, and they were basically killed. This demon invasion, because of Sumo's intervention, lasted less than half an hour, and ended completely. The battle is over. In the capital, there is a mess. Queen. The casualty statistics have come out. Fortunately, this time the Earl shot in time. The battle did not last too long, and the casualties were not very large. In the temple square, the female officer Kathy glanced at Sumo and reported the loss to the Queen of the Crescent Moon. In this battle, due to the fact that the demons went straight to the temple square, and the duration was not long, the Holy See and the Queen of the New Moon had already strengthened their vigilance, and the loss was not great. However, the sanctuary of the Miles family was killed in this battle. In addition, the New Moon Magic Academy was also attacked by some demons. Fortunately, the support was timely and only a few students disappeared. Kathy said again. Hearing that a sanctuary had died, the Queen of the New Moon asked for details. Kathy said, I don't know exactly how he died. It should have been killed by the devil who came later. In addition, Miles, the heir of the old Duke, should also have died together. The Queen of the New Moon arranged. Do a good job of comforting and send some condolences to the old Duke. Beside him, Sumo rubbed a ring in his hand, which contained a magical message that only he could read. After serving the 14 protagonists in one pot, Sumo did not personally take action against the other protagonists. However, Sumo let the succubuses take advantage of the chaos in the capital. The demons who attacked the New Moon Magic Academy were the succubuses. Led by a demon king-level succubus, he rushed in and grabbed a protagonist who was still hiding there. This protagonist is exactly the disciple of the sanctuary in the New Moon Magic Academy. The sanctuary was in the square at that time, and there was no time to support it. In addition, when the succubus in the last square is withdrawn, the other protagonist who is hidden in the square will also be caught, and then taken away. This protagonist should be the one who was admitted to the official before. The two protagonists, now both in a coma, were placed in a space bag and then thrown at a secret location outside the city. Sumo has sent a loyal hand to take it. This subordinate won't know what's in the space bag. In this way, this trip, Sumo got a full 16 protagonists. In the capital, there should be 4 protagonists left. These 4 protagonists are all in the Holy See. One was nurtured by the Corps, a sweeper protagonist, one in the Inquisition, and one in the Knights of the Temple. Seeing that Queen Crescent was arranging things, Sumo checked his villain panel. Player. Sumo villain nickname, Phantom. Faction. Villain's occupation. Count of the Blackstone land of the New Moon Kingdom. Level. Silver level, gold finger, or the cumulative villain value reaches 5,000 can be upgraded. 2,200 1,500's record, 20 air luck, 560. Gold finger. Silver ring, Krypton gold system, divine talent. Not included. Available for viewing warning distance, 25 kilometers. Rank. None. The 2 protagonists caught in the back have not been killed. Therefore, Sumo's new villain value is 1,500. After killing 14 protagonists, plus the first one to complete 10 kills, an extra 100 villain value is added. The record has become 20. The luck value has also greatly increased, from the previous 100 or so, to more than 500 suddenly. After reaching the silver level villain, each time you kill a protagonist, you will be rewarded with 10 points of luck. From each protagonist, Sumo can also grab 20 points of luck. Add it up, and in one fell swoop, your luck has reached 560. The roll of luck is more. I can't see it at the moment, but there are so many things, it must be very useful. The harvest this time was not bad. Not only did he successfully transform his bloodline, but he also killed so many protagonists in one fell swoop. In addition, another layout of Sumo is about to be realized. That is the secret control of the New Moon Kingdom. This kind of control is secret control. It's not that Sumo has occupied the New Moon Kingdom as a demon, that's unrealistic. It is possible for a demon to attack the world of gods, destroy a city, or even destroy a country once. However, it is unrealistic for the demon god to blatantly occupy a kingdom on the continent of the gods. That would cause all the celestial spirits to besiege. Sumo looked at the inventory on the villain panel again. Inside, there are a total of 15 gold fingers. The gold finger that he obtained before which became stronger while lying down, has not been authorized yet, and he just put it here. All bronze. 35 Sumo whispers. These 15 gold fingers are all bronze. There are a total of 5 systems. Lie down and become stronger. System 1. Go to work. Punch. System 2. Become an official. Become stronger. System 1. Add point. System 1. 1 ring, bronze ring. There are a total of 8 kinds of talents. Although these talents are bronze rank, they are also very high. Moreover, these talents are gold finger, which can also be upgraded by spending the protagonist value or the villain value. There are 8 kinds of talents, 6 kinds of magic talents, 1 kind of warrior talents, and a whole line talent. When you become an official, you become stronger. This system is the protagonist of the official who was admitted to it, right? Sumo thought. One of the protagonists was admitted to an official, not just to seek shelter. But his gold finger. So, you can become stronger by becoming an official. It is estimated that the model of this gold finger is that when the official position is promoted, the strength can be improved. Sumo glanced at his villain value. His current villain value should be able to incorporate 2 gold fingers and then upgrade to silver at the same time. It is definitely not enough to be promoted to the gold level. To upgrade to silver gold finger, only 500 villains are needed. To upgrade the gold level gold finger, it has been doubled by 10 times and requires 5,000 villain value. If there is a gold finger of the same type, it can also be fused to reduce the villain value required for upgrades. The same type here means the exact same type. Ring flow gold finger is the most convenient, just fuse the 2 rings directly. Like a system, it must be the same type of system. Different types can't be integrated yet. After Sumo swiped these gold fingers, he was not in a hurry to spend the villain value to gain permission. These gold fingers have limited improvement in his strength in a short period of time. After all the other protagonists in the capital have been resolved, it will not be too late to see which one will be included first. Among the remaining 4 protagonists in the capital, there are definitely silver-level protagonists. There may be more than one. As for gold, Sumo is not sure. The 4 protagonists in the Holy See, this time Sumo, did not have enough time to clear it because he wanted to complete the bloodline transformation. Now that the transformation of the bloodline is complete, it is time to clear the last 4 protagonists. Mo, are you tired? At this time, a gentle voice sounded. Sumo retracted his gaze from the villain panel, and saw that the Queen of the New Moon was looking at him with affection. Before, the Queen Crescent's love for him was still contained but not revealed. Will not be clearly expressed, especially in public. However, after this battle, Queen Crescent's admiration for Sumo has risen to a new level. Even though there are still many people here, the love in Queen New Moon's eyes has not been concealed in the slightest. Sumo was about to speak when the wind blew. A figure fell from the sky. When Sumo saw it, what fell down was the little angel who descended from the goddess of the new moon. Said to be a little angel, but in fact she is tall, at least 1.7 meters tall. This height is tall for women, but not too tall. If it is too high, it will not look good. This little angel is shrouded in white armor. After falling, the mask on her helmet opened, revealing a delicate face. When Sumo looked at her, she looked tall, but her face was rather petite. As an angel, her skin is also watery, which may be said to be too good to explode. When Sumo looked at the little angel, she also looked at Sumo. 4 eyes facing each other. Sumo's eyes were bright and clear. Although the succubus bloodline has been hidden, but that amazing charm can't be hidden no matter how. Especially Sumo's eyes. Even if he doesn't use the succubus eyes, a woman will fall quickly if she meets Sumo's eyes for a long time. After this little angel made eye contact with Sumo, perhaps she was defenseless. Her eyes were actually attracted by Sumo's eyes. Sumo's eyes are deadly attractive to ordinary women, and a few seconds can make an ordinary woman fall in love with him. But actually, it is even more attractive to the powerful beings like angels who have been able to peek into the mysteries of the world. Because, in his eyes, it seems that the sky is full of stars, and there are secrets of the whole world. So that, this little angel actually looked at Sumo for half a minute. It was not until the voice of the red-clothed Archbishop Phelan sounded that the little angel came to his senses. She made a low ah, and then the visor on her helmet fell all of a sudden. Inside the mask, one of her pretty face turned red. It was already red to the neck. If it weren't for the helmet on her face and the protective gear around her neck, she wouldn't have the face to stay here. Sky. She actually stared at a man for so long. This man is just a human being. But unfortunately, at that time, she just couldn't take her eyes away, and again, she felt that she would still be like that. How could this be? She was an angel who never showed any emotion to men. If the goddess knew about this, the little angel's face turned even redder. Count. Thanks to you this time, we have prepared magicians for you to eliminate some hidden diseases that may be brought about by the battle for your body. After the magicians are recuperating, the goddess hopes to see you. 35. Bishop Farron said to Sumo. Beside her, Queen Crescent Moon's mood became complicated again. She also needs to go to the Holy See and let some female magicians recuperate for her. Therefore, after Bishop Farron invited, the Queen of the Crescent Moon also followed. Just received the news that the sanctuary in the Miles family has also died. In the capital, in a room, the remaining Duke-level villains gathered there. Before, they did not go. Because we went together, the goal was too big and it was easy to be suspected. So, only Miles went. These Duke-level villains are all here waiting for news. After Miles was killed, they saw that Miles' head was grayed out. The complexion of each one also changed greatly, and I don't know what happened. The battlefield was too chaotic. Even if they sent people in, they couldn't find anything. Until the end of the battle, they received the news that the sanctuary of the Miles family was also killed. How did you die? A Duke-level villain asked. It is said that he was killed by that demon. 99. Another Duke-level villain who collects information. Myers had already blocked more than a dozen protagonists at that time. How could it be so unlucky that he just bumped into a demon? A Duke-level villain said depressedly. He wasn't feeling sorry for Miles. Instead, he was depressed for not getting the dozen or so protagonists. Dozens of protagonists, a dozen gold fingers. They can be divided into several. Sadly, it's gone now. That said, the dozen or so protagonists were also affected by the devil, and then died. Well, it should be like this. When Miles died, the warning information on our panel was less than a dozen. Unfortunately, these protagonists died in vain, and those gold fingers must have disappeared. The other Duke-level villains are also a little depressed. They've been planning for so long, and they're about to achieve it. I never thought that when Miles was about to succeed, a second demon would appear. Such a development, even if they wanted to break their heads before, could not have been predicted. For a while the remaining Duke-level villains were depressed, one by one deeply felt the impermanence of the world. I feel like our negative luck is starting to work. A villain said. The impact of a short period of time on the air transport value is actually very small. Seeing that they were so unlucky, these Duke-level villains, after being depressed for a long time, attributed this matter to luck. It was the only explanation they could think of. Something's wrong, everyone. I just learned that Miles and his family's sanctuary died at the same time. When these Duke-level villains were discussing, the protagonist in the Temple Knights also heard the news of the death of Miles and sanctuary. The protagonist suddenly felt that something was wrong. Unlike several villains, he didn't know the villain's plans or where Miles was at that time. But he knew that Miles and his family's sanctuary, as well as the Earl of Blackstone, the 14 protagonists, were together at that time. Then, the 14 protagonists died. Originally, they thought that either the Earl of the Blackstone territory killed it, or Miles killed it, or maybe the two killed it together. But now, Miles and the sanctuary in the family are actually dead. 14 protagonists also died. The Earl of Blackstone is still alive and well. Doesn't this mean these people, it is possible that they were all killed by the Earl of Moshiland? The villain, Phantom, completed the first 10 kills and became the first openly identified villain. His identity is Count of the Moishi Land of the New Moon Kingdom, and is currently a silver-level villain. The record list is activated, and Phantom is the first villain to land on the record list, and gets a villain value of 200. All villains or protagonists who have completed the 10 kills can log on to the record list, and at the end of each month, the protagonists or villains will be rewarded according to their rankings. At this time, 3 pieces of news that all protagonists and villains could see appeared on the panels of all protagonists and villains. These 3 messages soon caught the attention of all the protagonists and villains. In the New Moon capital, several Duke-level villains gathered in the room immediately noticed the message. When the villains looked at them, their expressions suddenly changed drastically at the same time. The Earl of the Black Stone. Phantom. He completed the 10 kills? Several Duke-level villains raised their heads and glanced at each other. From the eyes of the other party, they all saw deep consternation. I'm going. The Phantom is the Earl of the Black Stone land? He completed the first 10 kills? At the same time, in the group of protagonists, the protagonists in it also shouted. Not only them. When these 3 pieces of news were announced, a lot of protagonists and villains were noticed. I'm going. The villain will get 10 kills so soon? Phantom, isn't this the villain who got the first kill, and now the first 10 kills? I had a hunch that this villain is not easy. The Earl of Moishi territory. Why is an Earl a silver-level villain? All the silver-level villains here are dukes. 666. This Earl of the Mo Shilling is a bull. I feel that his silver-level villain is killed. Is it so scary? The record list has been announced. Let's go watch it. With the announcement of Sumo's identity, the forum became more lively than ever. Whether it is the protagonist forum or the villain forum, there are a lot of discussions. In addition, there are a large number of protagonists and villains who are also discussing this matter. The first 10 kills. In the eyes of many villains, this is of great significance. Some villains who were quite strong from the beginning are all interested in getting the first 10 kills. However, to kill 10 protagonists, how can it be so simple? The protagonists are relatively scattered. As long as these protagonists are careful, it will still be difficult to find them. Like the New Moon capital, there are 10 or 20 protagonists concentrated, and it is not easy to start. This time, in order to deal with them, Miles even brought the demons in order. As a result, it was still mixed up by Sumo. Of course, without Sumo, Miles really would have made it this time. But now, just over 10 days have passed, and the first 10 kills have been taken by Sumo. Some people still remember the Phantom, who took the first kill. Seeing that Phantom has won another 10 kills, there are naturally more people discussing. The topics of discussion are also varied. Some people are discussing why the Earl of Moishi Land is an Earl and is a silver-level villain. There are also people discussing how the Earl of Moishi Land did it. There are also many protagonists there cheering each other on. Because there are such fierce villains, these protagonists are naturally worried. Although they are not in the same kingdom with the Earl of Moishi Land, they will both become stronger in the future, and sooner or later they will have an intersection. Brother Mo, there is a villain who gets 10 kills first. He is a silver-level villain. A group of villains with a large number of people is also discussing this matter. Did you make a mistake? Is the silver-level villain so attractive? Brother Mo is at the gold level, and he hasn't had 10 kills yet. Immediately, another villain spoke. In this villain group, there is a gold-level villain. The level of the villain at the beginning depends on the comprehensive strength they have, such as identity, status, family power and so on. There is also a certain possibility, depending on individual strength. Silver-level villains are already very strong. Like the heirs of several silver-level dukes in the New Moon Kingdom, each one holds the power in their respective families. The strongest combat power in the family is basically above the legendary. Other aspects, such as economy, private army, family connections and influence, etc., are very good. Miles' family has a sanctuary, but Miles is no match for this Mog. This Brother Mo, the villain's level can actually reach the gold level. The overall strength at the beginning is probably very strong. Such villains are very rare. In the Crescent Kingdom, there are no gold-level villains. Brother Mo, how many are you missing? Someone asked. 4. In the group, Brother Mo replied. Then Brother Mo opened the villain forum, and a leaderboard had already appeared on it. After clicking on the leaderboard, Brother Mo found that there was only one leaderboard on the current leaderboard. List of records. A little open, there is only one name on it. Phantom. After the name are Villain Level, Kingdom, Identity, Record. Phantom, Silver Level Villain, Crescent Kingdom, Earl of Moishi Land, 20. It's this format. Brother Mo's expression was not too dignified at first. In his opinion, this silver-level villain was able to win the first 10 kills, possibly due to good luck. Just met a bunch of protagonists. There are so many protagonists, and some protagonists also like to hug together for warmth. This situation is also possible. However, when he saw the final record, his eyes suddenly narrowed. That record, not 10, M20, 20. This means that the Earl of Moishi Land has killed 20 protagonists. 20. This, the complexion of Brother Mo, the gold-level villain, couldn't help changing. A silver-level villain actually killed 20 protagonists in such a short period of time. Sky. He has become the leader of a very large killer organization. He not only possesses great strength, but also has a large number of killers in the organization. In the past 10 days, he launched all his forces and used the killers in the organization to launch an assassination. With those killers, he only won 6 leading roles. But a silver-level villain killed 20 so quickly. The Earl of Inkstone, Brother Mo, read the name again. In his eyes, fighting intent burned. He doesn't believe that he, a gold-level villain who is pitifully rare at this stage, will lose to a silver-level villain. Go look at the record of the Earl of Moishi Land. It's 2 FCK scary, it's actually 20, 99. I saw it too. How did he do it? 20 protagonists. I searched for several days, and only found 2 protagonists. It took a lot of effort to get one, and he was killing 2 protagonists a day. Kuo is afraid, so strong, is he really a silver-level villain? 9. On the forum, because of Sumo's record, 1,000 waves were stirred up again. Originally, after winning the first 10 kills, everyone would discuss it at most. Not too sensational. However, after the record list appeared, all the protagonists and villains came together to take a look. The number to see the record is 20 hours, immediately shocked. This was far beyond their expectations. There will be much more discussion. In particular, the villain rank of the Earl of the Blackstone Land is still the silver rank. A silver-level villain, actually so fierce. Many bronze-level protagonists are there wondering, if this continues, will they be hunted down soon? You successfully penetrated into the Holy See, and quickly gained the bishop's trust, who entrusted you with important tasks. 99. You have gained a lot of military exploits in the battle against demons. You have been blessed by God. Your divine talent has attracted the attention of God, and God has given you a lot of power to help your strength reach a higher level. You became a bishop of the Holy See and gained the right to control an area. When the protagonist and villain forum was lively, in a kingdom, a protagonist was using his gold finger there. His gold finger, something special. It's a gold finger called the Protagonist Simulator. Moreover, the protagonist's luck is very good. His gold finger was actually gold at the beginning. Gold-level gold finger. This luck is so good. The level of the protagonist is not equal to strength, but is determined by the level of gold finger. The gold finger of the protagonist can be simulated once a day. Every time, he can extract different talents and roles from gold finger, and choose different paths to simulate. For example, this time, what he chose was divine talent. Then, go the route of joining the Holy See. The simulator can be continuously simulated. After the simulation, he can see whether the road is correct or not. At the same time, after the simulation is over, he can also get rewards. The amount of the reward depends on the simulation results this time and the progress of the simulation. Due to the high level of gold finger, as long as every simulation goes well, he will get very rich rewards. This time, he was engrossed in the simulation again. The simulation of the simulator consumes his mental strength, but he can still support it. Soon, the simulator simulated that he became a cardinal. You have become the cult of the red coat, and you control the entire Holy See. Even the gods are very satisfied with your work. You almost control the entire kingdom. 35. With your own strength, you eliminated all the villain forces one by one, and the villains were killed by you one by one. You gained a lot of protagonist value, and you also entered the leaderboard, and your luck further improved. You have completely mastered the entire kingdom, and even the king has to bow his head in front of you. You start to march to the surrounding kingdoms and want to eliminate the villains there. God is very satisfied with your expansion. You have built a bigger kingdom for him and captured more believers for him. God regards you as the person he trusts the most and keeps improving your strength. You conquered a kingdom, wiped out all the villains, and made other villains famous. Your fame is getting bigger and bigger in the surrounding kingdoms. All the villains are afraid to hear your name, and you have also entered the top 20 on the protagonist list, becoming a giant-level protagonist. 95. The simulation of the simulator is getting deeper and deeper. This time, he made the right choice. It actually simulates external expansion. However, seeing that the simulation has reached this stage, the gold-level villain is getting more and more nervous. Can be seen. His hands were clasped together. The pupils also dilated, staring nervously at the simulator. Don't. This simulator protagonist is muttering to himself. The simulation continues. Finally, a few minutes later, that line of words that made him desperate appeared again. F***ck. This simulator protagonist is broken. F***k. 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 The simulator protagonist jumped up, holding his head there and yelling hysterically. How many times? How many times? There is no end. Why is it like this every time? Why? He is a gold-level protagonist. Why is he stuck there every time? The eyes of the protagonist of this simulator are bloodshot, and he looks at the panel of the simulator. At the bottom, there is a line of red letters. You were killed by the Earl of Blackstone. A simple line of words completely ended this simulation. The simulation is over, and it's really nothing. Before, he had made a few wrong choices, and it would have ended because he was accidentally killed by the villain. However, in the last week, after he mastered the rules, he simulated the very back several times. But after he simulated to enter the world of gods, the same result would appear. You were killed by the Earl of Blackstone. You were killed by the Earl of Blackstone. You were killed by the Earl of Blackstone, time and time again. No matter how he modified his talents, roles, and routes, it was useless. This time, still. Damn, who the hell is this Earl of Moishi, and where is he? The protagonist with a gold-level Goldfinger is desperate. After every simulation, it is impossible to bypass the Earl of Moshi land. Every time, he was killed by the Earl of the Blackstone land. If it goes on like this, he worries that the Earl of the Blackstone land will become a lingering nightmare in his heart. And because he gets stuck here every time, his gains in the simulator are also limited. The highest time is to simulate the strength of the sanctuary and be killed by this Blackstone land Earl. That is to say, if I can't get around him, even if my strength becomes stronger in the future, I will never try to obtain more than the sanctuary award. The gold-level protagonist finally calmed down and thought. Now, the impact does not seem to be particularly large. Although the number of rewards has decreased, it is still much richer than other protagonists. However, the most powerful simulation was when he had the power of the sanctuary realm, Jaudas, and was killed by the Earl of Moshi land. This is hard. This means that in the future, he will not want to obtain rewards above the sanctuary. In the simulator, he takes a different route, and the simulation process is completely different. For example, he took the route of cultivating magic, and when he reached the legendary level, he was killed by the Earl of the Blackstone land. He took the route of the Holy See and became a red-clothed archbishop. He had the protection of God, and he was able to directly command demigod-level combat power, and he also began to conquer the surrounding kingdoms. Result: still killed by the Earl of the Blackstone land. He went the king's side, married the king's daughter, and with his wit, finally ascended the throne with an army of millions. As a result, FCK was killed by the Earl of the Blackstone land. He wondered why this happened. It seems that the Earl of Moshi land is a hurdle in front of him. If he grows up smoothly and is not killed by other villains, he will always be killed by the Earl of the Blackstone land. His way was completely blocked by the Earl of Moshi land. This made him very desperate and speechless. After receiving the reward for this simulation, the protagonist opened the forum and prepared to chat with people to relieve his depression. Seeing this, his eyes widened, because the forum is full of news about the Earl of Moshi land. The Earl of Blackstone. It's him. The protagonist of this simulator did not expect that the person who made him despair actually appeared. Moreover, the other party is now only a silver-level villain Lang. An unreasonably strong silver-level villain. In just 10 days, 20 protagonists have been killed. Call. The protagonist of this gold-level simulator is even more desperate now. Yi Tian. AA don't believe in evil. After a long time, the protagonist of the gold-level simulator ran to sleep with red eyes. He needs to recharge his batteries and wait until tomorrow to simulate again. He didn't believe it, he couldn't get around this Earl of the Blackstone Land. Every simulation, his starting point is different. Because every day, his strength is advancing a little bit. Therefore, he gave himself enough blood, and his fighting spirit rose again. Sooner or later, I'm going to see in the simulator, you killed the Earl of Blackstone Land. Sure enough, it's him. Tisk tisk. I guessed it. Why are you panicking? It's better to leave early if you want to leave the New Moon Kingdom, so as not to give him the villain value. I will deal with this Earl of the Blackstone Land. On the other side, among the protagonists of the New Moon Kingdom, after a period of panic and discussion, the protagonist named Lance finally spoke up. It seems that there is a strange magic in his words. As soon as Lance spoke, the emotions of the other protagonists in the group quickly calmed down. At the same time, several Duke-level villains in the New Moon capital were relatively silent. They originally thought that Miles, Sanctuary and the dozen or so protagonists were killed by the devil. Now, after seeing Sumo's record, they are sure that 100% of the dozen or so protagonists were killed by Sumo. But at that time, Miles and Sanctuary obviously blocked more than a dozen protagonists. Linking the two together, the faces of these silver villains suddenly turned ugly. Because, Miles and Sanctuary, it seems that Sumo can kill Sanctuary. As for the connection between Sumo and the demon god, although they also feel that there are some problems, but with their brain circuits, they have not thought of that amazing possibility. After all, that was a little scary. This matter is not simple, and the Earl of Mo Shi is not simple, but after Miles died, he just turned the tide. We can't deal with him for the time being. Don't do anything else, let's see. Several silver villains quickly made up their minds. Deep in the Holy See, in a building, Sumo and the Queen of the Crescent Moon, surrounded by different magicians, are recuperating. This is what the Holy See's son or holy daughter must do every time after a battle with the power of God. The magician's ability is relatively simple, and it is very powerful when dealing with creatures such as demons. To deal with powerful magicians of the same rank, there are some passives. Some magicians also specialize in healing. The entire healing process lasted an hour. In the process, Sumo also saw the liveliness of the villain forum. He completed the first 10 kills, and the discussion of the villains is relatively less. On the protagonist's side, it is estimated that the vibration caused will be a little bigger. Finally, the treatment is over. The play is here. The goddess of the new moon wants to meet Sumo. Sumo is still accompanied by the Queen of the Crescent Moon into the temple. At this time, the temple has initially recovered some functions. Sumo is just broken, but not completely destroyed. The divine rune itself has some self-recovery abilities, but it just takes time. After the battle, the goddess of the Crescent Moon has activated the energy inside to restore it. Mo. I'm waiting for you outside. This time, after the Queen of the Crescent Moon sent Sumo to the core area, she did not go in. Sumo stepped into the core area of the temple. Here, the holy light has already lit up. In the air, a crescent moon hangs. Not much has changed from the last time. Not much has changed from the inside. After Sumo entered, the door outside the temple closed. He stood in front of the crescent moon and waited silently. In this way, after a short wait, the crescent moon began to glow. In the sky, light spots one after another began to fall. These light spots are like the light of fireflies. Every spot of light that falls can be gathered into a part of the shadow. The whole process lasted less than half a minute. On the crescent moon, a woman with a faint glow appeared. This is the new moon goddess. This is not her body, but a projection of strength or will. Rao is so. In the entire New Moon Holy See, there are very few people who have seen her projection. For the gods of the heavens, although it is necessary to perform miracles from time to time. But you can't appear too much in front of people. Otherwise, the sense of mystery will be lost, which will adversely affect the collection of beliefs. There is not so much attention in the abyss, and a big fist is the last word. But the devil usually doesn't show up. After the goddess of the new moon came, the crescent moon began to descend. Soon, it descended not far in front of Sumo. The goddess of the crescent moon is sitting on the crescent moon. Her eyes are like the moon, bright, but not dazzling, and her eyes are very soft. Her face was covered with a layer of brilliance, and she couldn't see her specific appearance. Goddess. Sumo spoke first and nodded slightly. Although it is a projection, this is also the first celestial goddess Sumo has ever seen. In terms of temperament, it is completely different from the demon gods like Lilith, the Abyss Banshee. Even if the new moon goddess is a projection, her body naturally has a sacred aura. Seeing it makes people blaspheme. At the same time, people can't help but want to worship. If it is an ordinary person, seeing her projection, I am afraid I have already bowed down. Sumo is naturally not affected by this breath. Sumo didn't look into the eyes of the new moon goddess, but looked calm and calm. On the opposite side, Sumo, who was so calm, also made the goddess of the new moon raise her eyes. Her eyes stayed on Sumo's body, and there was not much pressure. Sumo seemed too calm in front of her. This kind of calm is not deliberately disrespectful, or deliberately trying to attract women's attention or the like. That set might be useful against some noble daughters in the human world. But she is God. Replaced by an ordinary man, even if that ordinary man is a love scene veteran, seeing her projection, he will not have any blasphemous thoughts. On the contrary, the other party will pay homage to her for the first time. The divine aura in her projection is not something that ordinary people can resist. Just being able to resist, in front of such a perfect goddess, even a male demigod cannot be as calm as Sumo. This is true calm and calm. She could even feel that Sumo's heart did not waver at all. Such Sumo also makes the new moon goddess curious. In fact, the last time in the temple, when Sumo communicated with the goddess of the new moon, she had already noticed it. Sumo's soul is indeed terribly pure, and when she communicates with her, the power she can transmit far exceeds any of her previous saints. But Sumo's soul lacks the hot pillow of some devout believers. Yes, it's a hot pillow. Like the queen of the new moon, every time she communicates with the goddess of the new moon, once the goddess of the new moon responds, the queen of the new moon will also have positive emotions. For example, it will be happy, and it will be a little excited. But Sumo didn't. Sumo is very indifferent. Emotions gujing wubo, not to mention the time to communicate, that is, meeting her projection now, Sumo's emotions are still gujing wubo. Not even the slightest fluctuation. To say that Sumo is intentional, that is, pretending. In the eyes of the new moon goddess, it can't be pretended. It is almost impossible to hide from her. Because of this, the new moon goddess was born curious about Sumo. For a long time, she hadn't been curious about ordinary people in the world of gods. In particular, this ordinary person is still a man. When the power gap is too large, the goddess of the new moon can basically see through a person completely under the eyes of the goddess of the new moon. But this fails here at Sumo. 2 times of communication, 2 times of power down, she failed to learn more about Sumo. This made her more curious about Sumo. She is obviously just an ordinary human being, but she inexplicably sees a little mystery in Sumo's body. Of course, as a god, she also went through all the possibilities. It's not that she didn't think about the possibility of Sumo's disguise. However, she has given power to Sumo twice. How does Sumo pretend? Devil in disguise. If the devil can drive the power of the heaven, then in the face of the powerful heaven, it will not be passive on the whole. The 2 forces are very different. Not to mention, there are no demons who can have a pure soul like Sumo. In the temple, it fell into silence. After Sumo said hello, he stood there calmly, his expression indifferent. After looking at Sumo for a while, the goddess of the new moon was about to speak, but suddenly found that she didn't know how to speak. The atmosphere was too quiet. Sumo is too calm again. Such a calm Sumo, but the new moon goddess has never encountered any believers in the world of gods in front of her. Even if a demigod sees her, will not be so calm. This made her a little wonder. What kind of attitude should she use to talk to Sumo? If it is an ordinary believer, a high-ranking god, it is enough to pass down an oracle without any extra language. The other party will also be ecstatic to receive the divine oracle in person. Even non-believers, such as some sanctuary demigods of other kingdoms, although they are rarely seen. When it can be seen, out of respect for God, the other party is also respectful, and her attitude is naturally still aloof. God himself is high above. However, Sumo's calmness now makes the new moon goddess embarrassed. She has a faint feeling that if she talks to Sumo in a high-profile manner, Sumo is likely to ignore her. But what is she going to do? Sumo is clearly just a human being, so she can't take the attitude of treating other gods, right? Therefore, the current goddess of the new moon cannot speak. This is the first time she has encountered such a situation in her long years as a goddess. She desperately hopes that Sumo can come up with a gesture or attitude first. But Sumo just stood there calmly, with a lady first, waiting for her to speak first. Seeing Sumo like this, the goddess of the new moon is not calm. You did say a word. The goddess should make him a holy son, right? Outside the door of the core area of Aa the temple, the queen of the new moon stood there, not knowing whether to be happy or disappointed. However, she quickly recovered her spirits. Even if the goddess chooses him as her holy son, I won't choose another man. The queen of the new moon made a secret decision. In the world of gods, the king has no queen, which is indeed a big problem. But there are occasional exceptions. That is, when a king himself has great power, he can live for a long time. Generally speaking, this situation is rare, because there is a contradiction between the king and the powerful force. There are too many things for the king, and he is pampered, so there is no time to practice magic or fighting qi. Besides, their magical talent is not necessarily good. There is a king who is obsessed with practicing magic or fighting qi, and may not be interested in worldly power. The queen of the crescent moon was actually put on the shelves by ducks. She didn't want to be queen. The new moon queen's magic talent is just very good. Not only that, she also has a high element affinity. She used to be a genius in a magic academy, but later because of her own high purity of soul. In addition, her father wanted to intervene in the Holy See, so she was sent to the Holy See and trained as a saint of the crescent goddess. Now, it seems that the goddess of the new moon clearly intends to make Sumo her holy son. The queen of the crescent moon is also preparing to take another path. With Sumo, it is impossible for her to fall in love with other men. Therefore, she wants to improve her own strength and become a queen with powerful strength. Then, no one will say anything at all. She also wants to make herself live longer. She has to wait for the day when Sumo is not a holy child. In the eyes of the queen of the new moon, a firm expression gradually appeared. When the queen of the new moon made a secret decision. In the core area of Aa the temple, the new moon goddess wanted to speak several times, but when the words came to her lips, she felt that her proper posture was not right, and she couldn't say it. As if in the silence effect. The longer the silence, the harder it is to break the silence. After several times, the new moon goddess became more and more restless. Finally, she heard Sumo's voice. The goddess called me this time. Did she have any instructions? Hearing that Sumo finally spoke, the goddess of the new moon breathed a sigh of relief. The crescent goddess looked at Sumo brightly, and she decided to be direct. As a goddess, her communication method has always been very simple. Dorothy is about to step down as a saint. Originally, I was going to appoint a new saint, but after seeing you, I changed my mind. Will you be my son? The goddess of the crescent moon looked at Sumo, and her slightly cold voice was soft. She didn't notice that, after a long silence, she spoke to Sumo in a different way than she had spoken to anyone in the world of the gods before. If it was before, every time she replaced the saintess, she only showed a little bit of meaning, and the new saintess would be very excited. There is no need to speak in person at all, it is enough to pass down the oracle. Here at Sumo. For the first time, she speaks so much to a human in person. After speaking, the goddess of the new moon looked at Sumo with her eyes brighter than the moonlight. She was waiting for Sumo to answer. Finally, Sumo's eyes lifted and met hers. When seeing Sumo's eyes, the eyes of the new moon goddess could not help but be attracted. Sumo's eyes are too good looking. In Sumo's eyes, she is a goddess of the heavens, and she actually has a feeling of seeing the sea of stars and the endless starry sky. Just like how her little angels reacted when they saw Sumo's eyes. The stronger and more defenseless, the more susceptible he is when looking at Sumo. This effect is not what skill Sumo has activated. In a face-to-face situation, if he activates his skills, it is impossible to deceive the goddess of the new moon. This is the charm brought by the eye of the succubus after the transformation of the eyes. Similarly, after Sumo's life level came to the level of God, his cognition and understanding of the whole world was also contained in his eyes. Eyes are the windows to the soul. Human cognition is too superficial for God to see through it at a glance. But Sumo himself is also a god. As a traveler, he also has a super high succubus bloodline. His cognition and understanding of the world is far less than that of the new moon goddess. If you are curious about Sumo when you are unprepared, you will look more and more beautiful. The current goddess of the new moon is obviously defenseless. Therefore, she didn't consciously watch for a few more seconds. However, she was a goddess after all, and quickly realized her gaffe, and she looked away. At this time, she realized that her heartbeat had inexplicably quickened. The new moon goddess did not show any expression on her face. She said again, "You will be my first holy son, and also the best one. I can give you more rights, and even, 10 years later, I will allow you married. You can marry Dorothy." Marry Dorothy. Dorothy, the queen of the crescent moon. Not only can the holy son and the holy daughter not get married, but they cannot even touch the hands of the opposite sex. This is already the consensus of the world of gods. But now, in order to make Sumo her holy son, the goddess of the new moon also made an exception for Sumo. Of course, there is a premise, and that is 10 years later. This point, for the goddess of the new moon, can be said to be a bloodbath. She is probably already well aware of Queen Crescent's thoughts. Queen Crescent Moon couldn't hide her thoughts in front of her. Otherwise, she would not have mentioned the Queen of the Crescent Moon as soon as she opened her mouth. Facing the conditions of the new moon goddess, Sumo was noncommittal, and he said lightly, "Why does the goddess want me to be a holy son?" Why? The new moon goddess felt a little tired. To establish a holy son is actually a very simple matter for her. In the past, as long as she revealed a little meaning, she didn't know how many devout believers would compete for it. She didn't have to explain at all, let alone put forward any conditions. Don't even say a word. An oracle goes down, and the Holy See can arrange everything. This is the first time she negotiated terms with people. This made her feel like she was begging others to be a saint. This is the Son of God. Aren't you heartbroken? You can become the most central figure in the Holy See, and even the Archbishop in red has to be respectful in front of you. As long as you take out the oracle, everyone has to obey the order. When God or the incarnation of God comes, only the son and the daughter can see God without kneeling. Not only that, the benefits of being a son are too many. There are even more benefits than being a king. The only flaw is, can't touch the opposite sex. But the goddess of the crescent moon also gave Sumo a way back, allowing him to get married 10 years later, and the point is, she also allowed her to marry the queen of the crescent moon. Such a good condition. Why ask why? I'm so tired. The goddess of the new moon does not speak of these benefits. Because she feels, with Sumo's indifference, these benefits. Sumo may not be tempted. And, when it comes to the benefits, that's really begging Sumo. So, the new moon goddess looked at Sumo and said, "This is because your soul is very pure. I can come down with more power. Even if it is a war against the devil, you can completely handle it, just like this time." Oh. Sumo seemed to understand, and looked at the new moon goddess with pure and flawless eyes. It seems that he is still waiting for the next chapter of the new moon goddess. What's next for the goddess of the new moon? In the past, she didn't need to say this at all. Now, in order to show her sincerity, she did not talk about the benefits of being a holy son. Rather, tell the truth. The reason why she values Sumo is also for this reason. God came in person, and it took too much power. Unless you use sorcery like blood sacrifice, it is much more convenient to transmit power through the Holy Son and the Holy Maiden. After the battle, this power can be recovered. If there is a holy son or a holy girl who can carry the power of a pseudo-god, for a god, the meaning is not ordinary. This means that even if a demon god comes, or fights against other gods, she doesn't have to come in person at all. The son and the holy daughter can solve it on their own. And once she comes in person, it is equivalent to having 2 pseudo-god level combat power in the world of gods. This is a situation that the new moon goddess could never dream of before. However, Sumo didn't seem to understand, and was still looking at the goddess of the new moon with flawless eyes. Looking forward to her next post. The new moon goddess is about to be unable to resist. At this moment, even she had a feeling of wanting to return to the heaven immediately, and she would rather not have the son of God than face Sumo's big bright and innocent eyes. She is so hard. The goddess of the new moon had to say again. So, you have helped me a lot. I hope you can become my holy son, and I will not treat you badly. If your lifespan reaches the limit in the future, I can even extradite you to the heavens. Enter my kingdom of God. As long as I exist, you will always be there. After finishing speaking, the goddess of the new moon stretched out her hand towards Sumo with sincerity in her eyes, waiting for Sumo's response. Having said so much, she is a majestic goddess, and she has shown such a sincere attitude. He even stretched out his hand. When she thought about it, even if Sumo was indifferent, she should have agreed. Who knows? After Sumo glanced at her outstretched hand, there was no reaction, but there was thought. The new moon goddess looked slightly embarrassed, but the time was short, and she still protected that elegant and beautiful posture. After 3 seconds, Sumo finally didn't make her wait too long. Otherwise she would be too embarrassed. Sumo spoke up. His eyes were fixed on the goddess of the new moon, and the expression on his face was very serious. This serious expression also made the new moon goddess become serious. At this moment, she was a little relaxed. Because Sumo is finally about to express his position, even if he refuses, he doesn't need to be so tired anymore. Of course, she still desperately hoped that Sumo would agree. Therefore, in her eyes, there is anticipation and kindness. Then, she heard Sumo's voice. So, the goddess needs me, doesn't she? Need him? The new moon goddess didn't think much. He nodded. Yes, I need you. It seems to be waiting for her to say this. A smile appeared on Sumo's face. Then, Sumo stretched out his hand and put it on the hand of the goddess of the new moon. Deal. However, I need to try it out for a month, so it's a trial period. Sumo held the little hand of the goddess of the crescent moon. The delicate body of the new moon goddess suddenly trembled. The meaning of her reaching out is just an invitation, a kind of sincerity. But I didn't mean to let Sumo hold it like that. This is the first time she has been caught by a man, or an ordinary human being. Although, this is the projection of her coming. But her will also came, which is not much different from her own. Even her projection, in the past, has never been in such a situation. If replaced by other times, she was already angry. The consequences of the goddess being angry are also very serious. But now, she found that she couldn't get angry. Can't give birth at all. Although Sumo held her hand, Sumo's eyes were clear, not the slightest blasphemous or anything else. Inside, full of seriousness and sincerity, there is also a hint of joy. This joy is not because of the benefits of being a son, as she said. And seems to be because of the last sentence. She admitted it herself. She needs Sumo. And because of these words, he agreed. But what the heck is a probationary period? The goddess of the new moon is also divided. But looking at Sumo, who suddenly looked at himself enthusiastically. The goddess of the new moon couldn't stand Sumo's gaze again. Seeing that Sumo has already held his little hand, she also said, "Then make a deal." Sumo smiled brighter, but still didn't let go of her hand. The new moon goddess reacted. She realized something, and also held Sumo's hand. It was as if Sumo was encouraged. "I'll do my best." Then, Sumo finally let go of her hand. The new moon goddess breathed a sigh of relief. Call. Finally got it. In the temple, after reaching a consensus with Sumo, the goddess of the new moon is ready to leave. Goddess, wait. At this time, Sumo's voice sounded again. The goddess of the crescent moon looked back at Sumo. Sumo stretched out his hand and poked at her side. What's wrong? The new moon goddess is puzzled. Nothing, I read it wrong. Sumo said. Then I'm leaving the holy sea. I will arrange it, just do as you wish. After the new moon goddess finished speaking, her projection turned into a large number of light spots. Dissipate quickly. After the new moon goddess left, Sumo looked at the villain panel. Although the crescent goddess came with a projection, Sumo also found a bubble beside the crescent goddess projection. After using the pickup attribute system to puncture, I also got a good harvest. If the deity of the new moon goddess comes, you should be able to pick up better things. This time, the meeting with the goddess of the new moon was generally very smooth. I'm afraid the new moon goddess can't think of it. She thought about it, made a lot of money, made a special case, and even used a lot of tongue to get a holy child. It must be a devil. This matter, on the other demon gods in the abyss, is really enough to brag for a lifetime. Because at present, no demon god can do this. Even those congenital demon gods. Sumo came out. The queen of the crescent moon saw Sumo, and a bright smile appeared on her face. Because, she has just obtained the oracle of the new moon goddess. In the oracle, the goddess of the new moon told her that Sumo would be the new son, but she would still be the daughter. 10 years later, though, she could choose to marry Sumo. This news, for the queen of the crescent moon, is naturally very good news. Come on, queen. The queen of the crescent moon has now completely treated Sumo as her husband. She did not expect that the goddess actually set such a precedent for Sumo. She would never have thought that. Goddess of the new moon was almost depressed this time. Soon, the two left the temple and reappeared in the building behind the cathedral through the teleportation formation. Your Excellency Holy Son. As soon as Sumo appeared, Cardinal Phelan appeared and saluted Sumo respectfully. He has received the oracle of the crescent moon goddess. Know that Sumo has become the son of the new moon goddess. Therefore, the current Bishop Farron's attitude towards Sumo is also very different from the last time. Just polite last time. This time, it is respectful. Sumo nodded slightly. Bishop Farron said, Holy Son, I have already received an oracle from the goddess. Since the Holy Son does not need the coronation ceremony, from now on, I will take the Holy Son as the official Holy Son. As for the identity of the Holy Son, I will confidential. Generally speaking, when a new saint or son of the Holy See takes office, there is a coronation ceremony. Similar to the coronation of a king. The saint, the son, and the king are two power systems. One is kingship and the other represents divine right. In the world of gods, theocracy is definitely greater than the kingship. However, most of the time, as long as the monarchy does not overstep the rules, theocracy rarely interferes with the monarchy. After all, God does not want a kingdom that believes in him to be thrown into chaos. As for letting the Holy See govern the country, that's not realistic. Sumo deliberately didn't want a coronation ceremony. He is not like other devout believers who really want to be a son. For him, in this way, it is enough to be able to actually control the Holy See of the crescent moon, and to drive the Holy See of the crescent moon's power for his own use. After taking control of the Holy See of the crescent moon, the Queen Crescent Moon, who has a deep affection for him, controls the kingship. The entire New Moon Kingdom has now initially fallen under Sumo's secret control. This kind of control is still preliminary, but the operational space of Sumo is much larger than before. Sumo looked at the red-clothed Archbishop Phelan and said, Bishop Phelan, when there are outsiders in the future, you can just call me Count. Bishop Farron said, Yes, son. After finishing the question of the title, Sumo said again, Bishop Farron, you will retire in a few years, right? Bishop Farron nodded. Yes, son. Sumo asked, Has the bishop's successor been chosen? Bishop Fei Lun said, It has been selected and is being cultivated in a secret place. This successor has also been recognized by the goddess. He is more suitable to be a cardinal archbishop than me. If possible, I would like to retire early. Make way for him. Oh. Sumo showed a hint of interest. What's the name of this successor? Does he have any special abilities? Bishop Phelan said, His name is Lance, and his talent is very outstanding. He was born to be a bishop. As for his special abilities, I can't see it, but as long as he appears in the church, as soon as he opens his mouth, all believers will incomparable confidence and support. Lance. Su Mo is no stranger to this name. When he was investigating the situation of the palace, he had already learned from the 2 palace guards. This guy seems to be the protagonist of the core training of the Holy See. This guy's gold finger should be silver, but I don't know what gold finger is. Being able to be selected by the Holy See as a core training object in a short period of time is not easy for this protagonist. It's not easy for ordinary villains to move him. This time, if there is no Su Mo and Miles succeeds, Miles can kill all the other protagonists. But can't move him. Su Mo asked a few more questions. Bishop Farron did not hide it, and told Su Mo all the information he knew. The place where Lance was cultivated was still in the royal capital. It's just that in the deepest part of the Holy See headquarters, the high-level magicians of the Holy See have created a special space specially. Even the Queen of the Crescent Moon rarely goes there. Once cultivated, Lance will first be put down to become a regional bishop. As long as the grades are good, Lance will be promoted to the bishop of a city, and further become a cardinal. Finally, is the position of the cardinal archbishop. That is the current location of Bishop Farron. There are only 10 cardinals in the Holy See of the Crescent Moon. The cardinal archbishop is unique, and there is only Phelan alone. In some Holy Sees, this position is called Pope. However, the goddess of the new moon did not establish the position of the Pope, and she did not want an emperor to appear in her Holy See. After understanding these circumstances, Su Mo put this Lance behind to deal with. It's not too late to get the other protagonists in the capital first. By the way, I heard from the Holy Maiden that you have caught some demons. Did you ask anything? This time the demon attack is quite strange. Su Mo said again. Bishop Fei Lun nodded. Well, it is indeed a bit strange. The 2 demon gods both emerged from the royal capital, which means that someone launched a large-scale blood sacrifice, but all traces of the scene were shattered. We have no good finds yet. After a pause, he added, as for demons, these demons have never been able to ask anything, and they won't say anything. Sir Bishop, there is a situation. As soon as Bishop Farron's voice fell, a clergyman hurriedly came to report. What's the situation? Bishop Phelan asked. The clergyman glanced at Su Mo and was about to lean in and whisper. Bishop Farron said, don't shy away from the count, just say it directly. Only then did the clergyman say, in the court, a jailer used a special method to make a demon confused and tell the reason for this demon attack. When Bishop Farron heard the news, he applauded again and again. They have never given up investigating the reason for the demon god's attack this time. After all, it is no trivial matter for the demon god to appear directly in the capital. If you don't investigate clearly, what if there is another wave in the future? However, when the demon god came out, the aura of the demon god collided with the laws of the world of gods, and everything around was shattered. Couldn't find any trace. They sent a large number of experienced magicians, or magician. Even some crime-solving experts were dispatched. There was no gain either. The only speculation is that the person who organized this incident is not small. It's definitely not something ordinary people can do. Very simple truth. How can an ordinary person find so many dead men? To summon a demon through the blood sacrifice, 999 dead men are required. One less is 1,000. There are so many people who died voluntarily, but it is not so easy to find. What's more, there are 2 demon gods in the capital, that is, 2,000 dead men. It is one thing that these dead men have been found. On the other hand, it must be done flawlessly. Not only must there be a magic circle that summons the devil, but it must also cover up the movement so that no one can notice it. In the capital, there are not many who can do this, but not many. Some great nobles above the marquis are the objects of suspicion. There are also some big businessmen and the like. However, there is no evidence, and people cannot be arbitrarily arrested. The power of these nobles is not weak, and when faced with a common threat, all nobles also like to form a group. For example, in the face of the oppression of the royal power, the nobles often form a group to fight against each other. Therefore, even the Holy See, without any evidence, has no way to take some suspects. If you can't find evidence, you can only ask some captured demons. But how can the devil speak? Ordinary demons may not know. You know, they might also be talking nonsense. Demons are very cunning. They would rather be killed than tell the truth. For them, the cost of betraying the demon god is too great. Not to live in death. But this time, there was a breakthrough. Soon, Bishop Farron came to a special place, here, the Inquisition. Su Mo also followed. In the Inquisition, a jailer is surrounded by stars. Being surrounded like this jailer has a sense of accomplishment. He is the sign in Protagonist hidden in the Inquisition. The protagonist of this sign in flow was originally going to hide here and sign in silently to become stronger. But a recent system change made him vaguely uneasy. In particular, this time Su Mo turned the tide. In Lance's speculation, Su Mo probably had some privileges in the Holy See. So, he decided to show it off and seize the opportunity to climb up. It just so happened that a few captured demons were gathered here. When he saw that something was obviously wrong with a demon, he seized the opportunity and used the skills he had signed in to successfully make the demon tell the truth about this demon invasion. This truth is astonishing. He has already said this in the Protagonist group, and in the Protagonist group, it has caused a commotion. I'm going. I didn't expect that this time the demon invasion was actually made by Miles and the others. The purpose is to deal with you. This is too cruel. These villains are indeed ruthless. 35. Long Wa. Take the opportunity to kill them. In the group of protagonists, there was a commotion. This time, with this achievement, I should be able to become a backbone of the referee. The sign in stream protagonist smiled. Then, he saw that Cardinal Phelan walked in. When the protagonist of the sign in stream saw Farron, he thought that his opportunity for promotion was coming. Once he became the backbone of the Inquisition, Su Mo would not be able to deal with him even if he had privileges in the Holy See. He was about to speak when he saw Su Mo, who was following Farron. His face suddenly sank. Why is he here? The protagonist of the sign in stream is not too worried. If he wants to come, this should be the privilege of Su Mo after his merit this time. But don't even try to deal with him. Lord Bishop, this demon caught my skill and explained everything. Lord Meba has tested it with divine magic, and what it says is true. The protagonist of the sign in stream did not provoke or pay any attention to Su Mo, but hurriedly went to Bishop Farron to take credit. Behind Bishop Farron, Su Mo glanced at the demon who was being interrogated by the sign in stream protagonist. This demon is a servant of the succubus dynasty. It was also deliberately placed there when the succubuses were retreating. This time, the battle of the royal capital is over. But things are not over yet. This time he cheated a lot of people. The long-nailed demon god was trapped, more than a dozen protagonists were trapped, and Miles even lost his life. The goddess of the new moon, it is not a pit for her. Although swallowed a lot of her divine energy, if it weren't for Su Mo, her loss would be too great. In short, this time, the villain and the protagonist, including the silly big man Longnail, were all tricked by Su Mo. Now, it's the turn of the silver-level villains who haven't died yet. These villains are also unstable factors, and they are obviously hostile to him. How could Su Mo keep each other? This sign in stream protagonist jumped out on his own initiative, but it was just right. The protagonist of the sign in stream is very proud. Under his control, the demon quickly said everything. Next to it, a powerful magician, through his own magic, can ensure that what the demon said is correct. These nobles are really lawless. After hearing this, Bishop Farron was furious. Bishop Farron subconsciously looked at Su Mo. Saint. Count, how do you think should be handled? Seeing Bishop Farron's attitude, the face of the protagonist of the sign in flow changed, and a trace of trouble flashed in his heart. A cardinal archbishop, the highest-ranking person in the Holy See except for the Holy Son and the Holy Maiden. When dealing with such a big matter, why should you ask Su Mo for the opinion of an outsider? If this is the privilege that Lance speaks of, then it's a bit too much of a privilege. Su Mo glanced at the demon and said, just punish the first evil, don't involve their family. Since this jailer can make such a great contribution, he will send out the temple knights. After arresting the person, let him be responsible for the execution. How about it? Hearing Su Mo's words, the Farron protagonist felt a little strange. He wonders why Su Mo wants this little jailer to execute the nobles who have committed crimes. However, Bishop Farron still said, the Count is right, so let's deal with it like this. He asked me to kill those villains. Next to it, the protagonist of the sign in stream did not expect that Sumo would actually propose this. And this proposal, Bishop Farron actually agreed. Apart from Miles, the villains who planned the demon invasion this time, there were also several silver villains and several marquee-level villains. All are heirs. Once he kills them, the protagonist can definitely upgrade his gold finger. He can also become a silver-level protagonist in one fell swoop. This is simply pie from the sky. This sign in Protagonist is not happy at all. Not only is he not happy, but his mood is slowly sinking to the bottom. Because he feels like he's an unslaughtered pig. He is still too thin now, but after killing a few villains, he is fat. Then, to be slaughtered. Why do you arrest me? Just based on some unfounded accusations, you are going to arrest a Duke family heir who has made great contributions to the kingdom. In the royal capital, outside a gorgeous mansion, a large number of knights held large shields and weapons, blocking the front of a Duke heir. Outside the mansion, there was a team of 100 temple knights. This time, it involved demons and demon gods, so it was the temple knights who took action. Otherwise, even if the nobles returned, the Holy See would not interfere too much. Outside, a large number of people in the royal capital were watching, and there was a lot of discussion, not knowing what happened. Viscount Hoffman, you are accused of colluding with demons and leading this demon invasion together with Viscount Miles. Please investigate with us, the Holy See. If you insist on disobedience, we can only offend. In front of the team of Templar knights, a judge from the Inquisition said. The heir of a duke, before he formally inherits the title, is usually a viscount, even if he holds the power of the family. But the comprehensive strength in their hands is naturally duke level. What, colluding with the devil? Did they actually make this demon invasion? Why did they do it? Old Duke Hoffman is highly respected, but he didn't expect his heir to collude with the devil. As soon as the presiding judge's voice fell, the surrounding people became commotion one by one. The discussion grew louder. HMPH, if you want to add a crime, there is nothing to worry about. I see who dares to touch me today. Hoffman said coldly. Although his expression was cold, he was very flustered in his heart. He never thought that they had been arranged for so long, and they had clearly picked themselves up, why they were still found. This plan was made by Miles, and it was flawless. Even if it failed, it would not implicate them. It's not that they didn't think that a demon would be caught. But according to their understanding, even if the demon is caught, there is no risk. They communicated directly with the demon gods, and ordinary demons know something, and if they know it, they won't say anything at all. What should I do? The temple knights came directly. My side too. I have informed the legends in the family that they cannot be taken away, otherwise, as soon as we enter the Inquisition and come to a spiritual magician, we will definitely not be able to stand it. Not only was he panicking. In their group of several silver-level villains, the other Duke heirs were also panicked. Because they were afraid that they would escape from the capital, and it would be difficult to arrest them after returning to their own territory. Bishop Farron directly dispatched several temple knights to cooperate with the judges of the Inquisition, and at the same time blocked the place where the heirs of the dukes lived. In the capital, it is forbidden to fly, and the flying ship cannot fly, and the unauthorized magician is not allowed to fly into the sky. They have no escape. If that's the case, then it's a sin. The presiding judge made a move, ready to let the temple knights attack. Wait. At this time, in the sky, a figure suddenly fell. The powerful aura made the people watching from a distance could not help but retreat. This is the legend of the Hoffman family. Judge Hender, why is this? As soon as the legend of the Hoffman family fell, it stood in the way, said Elmer. Let me answer this question for you. As soon as the legendary voice fell, an old man wearing a robe of the Holy See appeared in the sky. Seeing this old man, Hoffman's heart sank completely. This time, the Holy See is serious, even the legend of his family. I'm afraid I can't save him. Holy See headquarters. Not long after, a group of temple knights escorted several Duke heirs back to the headquarters. Following behind these temple knights are a large number of people watching the fun. As well as, these noble families organized the people who came to protest. Not only that, other nobles in the entire royal capital also came to support them one after another. These nobles jointly protested against the Holy See's practice. The nobles of this world have some privileges, especially the big nobles. Even if they commit crimes, they are rarely killed directly. Elton, our only hope is on you. Make the noise a little louder. The bigger the noise, the better, and mobilize more nobles to come to protest. In the villain group, although several Duke heirs were arrested, they were still struggling. These nobles who came to protest were all initiated by a bronze-level villain. The nobles themselves have the habit of holding a group, especially when they are fighting against the royal power. Occasionally they even dare to stand up to the Holy See, just like now. Of course, this is not just a fight, but a group to put pressure on each other. The old dukes of several duke families also brought a large number of people to the headquarters of the Holy See. Under their instigation, many people who didn't know the truth also made a noise. There is no real evidence, just relying on the devil's planting. You will execute the heir of the duke's family. Where is the law of the king? Where is the law of heaven? Let's pray together. Let the goddess do justice, and we can't let the people of the Holy See do whatever they want. Several old dukes have made great contributions to the kingdom. Do you treat their heirs like this, letting the white-haired people send the black-haired people? Outside the Holy See, the protesters grew larger and larger. Sir Bishop, the 3 duke heirs and the 2 marquis heirs have all been arrested and brought to justice. However, there are more and more people protesting outside, and there are already nearly 1 million people. I am afraid that our forcible disposal will bring great disadvantages. Influences. In the cathedral, a clergyman preached to the Bishop of Farron. Bishop Farron pondered for a while, and looked at Sumo subconsciously. Then give them evidence. Sumo said lightly. There is actually a lot of evidence. These villains do it flawlessly. However, Sumo helped them restore a lot of evidence. For example, the magic circle that the succubuses came out of was reinforced and restored by the succubuses. In addition, as a demon, it is too easy for Sumo to create some evidence. The location of these evidences is already in the mind of that demon. The people of the Holy See have basically got it. Then, after more and more people gathered in the temple square, Sumo appeared. The Earl of the Black Stone Land. When I saw Sumo, the people participating in the protest, the voice subconsciously became smaller. The square was quiet for a while. It can be seen that Sumo's prestige in the eyes of these people is high. This time, the fact that Sumo turned the tide has already spread throughout the entire capital, further increasing his prestige. No, he came out. As soon as Sumo came out, the faces of the arrested villains changed one by one. They originally thought that the protagonist in the Holy See was dealing with them, but now, they found that it was not the case. I'm afraid it's not the other protagonists who deal with them. It's Sumo who they see as a thorn in their side. Then, something that changed their faces even more happened. After Sumo appeared, he didn't say much, and directly asked the magician of the Holy See to take out all the evidence. As all kinds of evidence were brought out and confirmed, the people let out a burst of sighs. I didn't expect them to actually collude with the devil. 555. My grandma died in this invasion, it's their fault. They must be hanged. On the temple square, the wind turned quickly. Even some nobles, in front of these evidences, have already lost their temper. Not to mention ordinary people. Where did the Holy See get this evidence? No, there is a magic circle that hasn't been destroyed, 0.35 feet. It's over, this time we're finished. Earl of Moishi Land, it must be the Earl of Moishi Land. I have long felt that something is wrong. He probably already knew our plan, or why did it block it so accurately? Miles. In the villain group, several villains were completely panicked. Their last struggle was useless. In the face of absolute strength and absolute evidence, their struggles are so futile. Moreover, the more they thought about it, the more they felt that something was wrong, and they vaguely felt that the whole thing was probably being manipulated by the Earl of Moishi Land. Although they don't know Sumo's other identity, the terrifying level of the current Earl of Moishi Land in their hearts has risen by another level. Finally, all the evidence was presented. In the square, there was already a sound of indignation. Immediately afterwards, Bishop Farron personally announced the solution, and these noble heirs would be publicly hanged as punishment. Their families, because they were not involved in this incident, will not be affected. Soon, the villains were escorted to the other end of the square. There is a place dedicated to hanging. Every villain was hung with a rope around his neck. The sign-in-stream protagonist Long Hua walked towards the gallows with a bad expression on his face. It will be up to him to pull the planks under the feet of these villains. In this way, in the judgment, these villains were all killed by him. He can get a wave of protagonist values. This kind of pie from the sky didn't make him happy. Although, in the protagonist group, some protagonists told him not to worry, get the benefits first, and then fight with Sumo. Wait a minute, Bishop Farron. Let the Templar also go. The Inquisition and the Templar will judge these sinful people at the same time. This seems to have a better meaning. At this time, the voice of Sumo sounded again. He pointed to a Templar knight. The Templar knight who Sumo pointed to also changed his face. Because, this guy is the protagonist in the Temple Knights. Long Hua, I'm with you, don't worry, he won't let us go anyway, we'll fight him after we upgrade Goldfinger. This Temple Knight said in the protagonist group. Compared to the sign-in-stream protagonist, he is much calmer. The protagonist of the sign-in-flow and the protagonist of the Temple Knight stepped onto the protagonist from both ends at the same time. Long Hua, the protagonist of the sign-in-stream, came to a villain. Big face to small face. The villain's face was naturally hopeless. However, the expression on Long Hua's face was also not good looking. The villain had already recognized Long Hua's identity. When he saw that it was actually a protagonist who came to kill him, the villain was stunned for a moment. Immediately, the villain reacted and laughed. You were raised as pigs by him, ha ha ha. It seems that I am not the only one suffering. Damn it. Long Hua couldn't collapse, he pulled the rope in one fell swoop, and the villain was hanged. On the other hand, the protagonist of the Temple Knight did not talk nonsense, and quickly pulled off a rope. In the end, because Long Hua's mentality collapsed, the protagonist of the Temple Knight pulled an extra rope instead. I have risen to the silver level, and my divine talent has taken a higher level. HMPH, I want to let the Earl of Moshi Land know what the idiom of raising tigers means. The protagonist of the Temple Knight hummed softly in the protagonist group. Signing in to the stream protagonist panel also appears in the prompt. After killing these villains, the protagonist value he got has also been able to raise his gold finger to the silver level. Once he reaches the silver level, his growth will be faster. However, he was not happy at all. He looked at Sumo subconsciously, but found that Sumo's eyes were indifferent, not looking at them at all. Such a calm Sumo made the mood of the main character of the sign-in-stream even lower. Although the Temple Knight protagonist is full of confidence. But the protagonist of the sign-in-flow felt. Now he and the Temple Knight are like two fattened pigs. Let's see when Sumo decides to start the slaughter. The portraits of several silver-level villains in the capital are all gray. It's too ruthless. Judging from their previous speeches, it should be the Earl of the Moishi Land who swept them all away. Hey. The Earl of the Blackstone Land is so ruthless with the villain, I'd better leave the New Moon Kingdom. Don't, it's still feasible for the protagonist to leave the Crescent Kingdom. If we leave, our power will be greatly reduced. If we go to other kingdoms, we will be hunted and killed. Just hold your tail and be a man. Just don't provoke the Earl of Moshi Land. In a villain group of Crescent Moon Kingdom, when they saw that the portraits of several silver-level villains in the capital were grayed out, all the villains in it also shivered. They were already a little frightened. Because the Earl of the Blackstone territory is not only ruthless to the protagonist, but he even kills the villain. Now, in the entire royal capital, all the silver-level villains have been killed. There are only 1 or 2 bronze-level villains who are ready to escape from the capital. The current royal capital, because of the existence of the Earl of Moshi Land, is terrifying in the eyes of the villains. Late at night. Long Hua, don't be afraid. He can't move us in public. I'm really afraid. You can find a chance to escape from the capital. Anyway, these silver villains are dead now. In the protagonist group, the protagonist of the Temple Knight is still comforting the sign-in protagonist. Now, they have all become silver protagonists. The other side. Sumo has returned to the palace. Mo, you can live here for a long time in the future. I will send someone to arrange the surrounding area. There is a separate magic circle here, you can open it when you are resting. The Queen of the Crescent Moon arranged a palace for Sumo in her inner palace. The inner palace of the palace was originally where her father lived. After the Queen Crescent came to the throne, a lot of renovations were carried out here, and she lived in the new palace. The palace she arranged for Sumo was not far from her own. After knowing the attitude of the new moon goddess, the new moon queen is also more bold. Last time she also arranged Sumo in the outer palace. Sumo did not refuse. Living in the palace was indeed the best choice for him. If you live in the Holy See, it is too inconvenient to do things. The palace is the territory of Queen Crescent Moon, where he is much more convenient. So, Sumo lived in the newly arranged palace of Queen Crescent Moon. The maids called hot water and washed Sumo. Then, Sumo entered the room. He first opened the magic circle of this palace. After checking the magic circle from the inside to the outside and confirming that there is no problem, Sumo opened the small magic circle with the magic disc in his room again. After the magic circle was opened, Sumo released 2 unconscious protagonists from a space bag. One is the one caught at the New Moon Magic Academy. One is in the Temple Square, the succubus finally caught. The 2 protagonists, after most of the day, were still in a coma. A red light appeared in Sumo's eyes. In a short time, he became clear about the situation of the 2 protagonists. These 2 protagonists, the protagonists who were accepted as disciples by the sanctuary, are silver-level protagonists. This is a talented protagonist. His talent is very powerful. That is, crit talent, silver-level crit talent. This talent allows him to gain 3 times the crit from his magic practice, and the specific crit multiplier depends on the probability. The higher the talent level, the greater the probability of a good multiple of the crit, and the greater the upper limit of the crit. At the same time, this talent also tripled his magic talent at the beginning, so his growth rate is very fast. Unfortunately, before he grew up, he was caught by the succubus. Critical attack talent, Sumo whispers. This talent is not bad, it can be said that it is a very powerful talent. If this talent is combined with other talents, it will be even more powerful. This protagonist worships under the door of a sanctuary, giving him time. With this talent, the possibility of growing up is too great. Unfortunately, he met Sumo. Sumo's thoughts turned the protagonist into ashes. Then, he incorporated this talent. 500 villain value. This talent consumes a lot of villain value, and it needs 500 villain value. It just happened. It was the villain value of killing a silver-level protagonist. Therefore, after incorporating this talent, Sumo's villain value has not changed in any way. He looked at the villain panel and clicked on the description of the talent. Crit talent, gold finger, silver level, can be crit harvested. This talent can be increased to gold level or above. Can crit the protagonist or villain value harvest. The crit effect is half of the normal crit harvest. Described. Can you also crit the protagonist or the villain's value? After seeing the description, Sumo's brows twitched. This talent. Something. Even the protagonist value and the villain value can crit. However, the premise is that you need to upgrade to the gold level or above. The current silver level is not acceptable. The crit effect is not as good as the normal harvest of crit, only half, but it is also very good. Gold level crit talent. The multiplier of crit itself is not low, half of the effect. Even if it is only 2 times the crit, it is fine. In this way, after having enough villain value, it is a very good choice to upgrade this talent to the gold level first. The other protagonist's gold finger is not as good as the crit talent, but it's okay. It's also a bronze grade Krypton gold system. However, this person's route is different from that of the previous protagonist, so there are some differences in the rewards in the system. It can be used to integrate the current Krypton gold system to reduce the villain value required for upgrades. After solving this protagonist, Sumo put his kryptonite system on the protagonist panel. He wasn't in a hurry to compile it. Then, Sumo looked at his own panel. After killing the 2 protagonists, this time in the royal capital, he managed to get 16 protagonists. The previous villain value was 1500. When the identity is made public, the first one on the record list is rewarded with 200 villain points, which becomes 1700. The 500 villain value of killing the silver level protagonist is used to incorporate the crit talent. After killing another bronze-level protagonist, his villain value became 1800. It's still a bit far from the 5000 villain value required to upgrade the gold-level Goldfinger. However, there are still 4 protagonists in the capital. Of these 4 protagonists, at least 3 are all silver level, right? Mo Yi and the others are also dead. It should be the Earl of the Black Stone Land who killed them. Among the protagonists of the New Moon Kingdom, some protagonists soon discovered that the 2 protagonists had died. 66 plus, in the Inquisition, the protagonist of the sign in Stream cursed. 2 more dead. In the capital, there are only 4 left. He wanted to escape from the capital. However, he was afraid that Sumo's eyeliner would be staring outside, and once he left the capital, he would be killed by Sumo's people. Now, he doesn't underestimate Sumo in the slightest. Sign in for a few more days, it's half a month, and see if there are any big rewards. I don't go out these days. I don't believe that he dares to kill people inside the Holy See. Although the protagonist of the sign in flows uneasy in his heart, he can only carry it on hard. The next day came quickly. As soon as the next day arrived, the Holy See promoted the protagonist of the sign in flow, and raised him directly from a small leader to the presiding judge. For him, this is already equivalent to several levels of helicopters. But the other people in the court are envious. How does it feel to be promoted, Long Hua? You are now the presiding judge. Don't worry, he can't do anything about you. After a while, let him taste the taste of being backlashed. The Templar protagonist kept cheering him on. After the gold finger of the protagonist of the Temple Knights rose to the silver level, the growth rate was also very fast. According to his estimation, within a few days, he will be able to join the official Knight Order. Seeing that he was promoted, and today, Sumo didn't bother him. The heart of the sign in Stream protagonist was a little more settled. But Sumo is still a lingering shadow on his mind. It was like a big mountain that weighed him down. He always felt that the fate of his meat pig might not be reversed. He has managed so many protagonists by himself, and even the great efforts of several silver-level villains have been disturbed by Sumo. He didn't know the full layout of Sumo. But from his observation, the protagonist has died more than a dozen times, the silver-level villains are all dead, and the biggest winner is Sumo. How scary is Sumo like this? Make him have to be afraid. The other party deliberately fattened him. It is impossible not to kill him. There are demons in the north again. Maurice, take the 5th Reserve Temple Knights to check it out. After a day of anxiety, the next morning, in the Inquisition, a presiding judge said. What? When the protagonist of the sign in Stream heard the news, his expression changed. Because, his name is Morris, and Longhua is just his name before crossing. Damn, we're going to be called out. 35 The sign in Stream protagonist quickly said in the group. Because he knows. The 5th Reserve Temple Knights is the team where the protagonist of the Temple Knights is. The 2 of them are actually going to be transferred out of the city. Once out of the city, the opponent's operating space is too large. Moreover, the other party is blatantly calling them out of the city to solve it. Really? Is it going to be slaughtered? Why can he interfere so much with the Holy See? FCK, I'm not going, I'm going to take sick leave. The Temple Knight protagonist also panicked. Once out of the city, even with other Temple Knights, it is dangerous. What he was in was only the preparatory knights, the other Temple Knights were all 2nd order strengths, and the captain was only 4th order. This strength can also deal with ordinary troops. Come to a powerhouse above the 6th rank and destroy it directly. The 5th order ones can't be destroyed, because their equipment is too good. Presiding judge, I'm not feeling well, can someone else go? The sign in Stream protagonist asked. Not feeling well? I'll call a magician to treat you. The bishop has appointed you to go. You can't do it if you don't go. The presiding judge said. What? The heart of the sign in Stream protagonist sank. F*K. I can't even take sick leave. FCK. The protagonist of the Temple Knights cursed wildly in the group. But his scolding had no effect. There can only be incompetent fury there. In the protagonist group, the other protagonists saw the conversation between the 2, and they were happy there. Fortunately, they were not in the capital. Terrible. Even the 2 protagonists who were hiding in the Holy See, the Earl of Moishi Land, actually wanted to forcibly form a group and slaughter them both. Because of their conversation yesterday, the other protagonists already know what happened yesterday. Originally, some protagonists envy them for reaching the silver level. Now, they are naturally not envious at all. This is a typical fattening and then killing. In the end, the two protagonists had to go too. They knew that Sumo would definitely deal with them this time, and they couldn't do anything about it. What can be done? Disobeying the order is definitely not good, exposing to the Holy See that Sumo wants to kill them. Who believes? After the two protagonists led a group of temple knights out of the city, the sign in Protagonist looked at the panel. No warning was seen. This eased his heart a little. Let's slip away. Miles in the sanctuary are likely to be handled by him. This team of Templars can't protect us. The sign in stream Protagonist suggested. Okay, when the town in front is resting, let's disguise and drive away. The protagonist of the Knights Templar also has a decision. If the other party is determined to make a move, this team of Temple Knights cannot protect them at all. Might as well disguise it and sneak away. Finally, they reached the town. Then, the two guys found an opportunity, changed into another outfit, and after a makeover, slipped out quietly. Walk. The two moved in one direction and quickly left here. Soon, they were far away from the capital. Ha ha ha, I didn't expect that we escaped. Let Lance and Wu Fan fight him in the capital, and we will let the birds fly from now on. The two protagonists thought they had escaped and laughed. However, their laughter had just sounded, and there was a change in front of them, and in the next second, they didn't know anything. It's done, I owe him a favor, and finally repaid one. A figure fell, clapped his hands, and put the two protagonists into the space bag. There's no news for these two guys. Lance, have they texted you back? In the library, the protagonist of the Sweeper is asking Lance, who has been trained by the Holy See Corps. I didn't reply. It looks like a lot of bad luck. Lance said lightly. This is not good. The Earl of the Blackstone territory is too strong, and he can directly intervene in the affairs of the Holy See. Lance, what is his status in the Holy See now? Do you know? Will he become the Holy Son? The protagonist of the Sweeping Monk asked. Impossible. If he becomes a Holy Son, the Holy See will not be silent, and the goddess of the new moon has never chosen a holy child. Don't worry too much. Wait a while. I will let him no longer be able to borrow the power of the Holy See. 5. Lance was still very calm, said. Okay, then I'll stay in the library. I don't believe it. I don't make any mistakes. The old guy can guarantee that I won't make any moves. He dares to move me in the library. The protagonist of the Sweeping Monk said. After speaking, he closed the panel. Seeing that there were 20 or so protagonists in the capital, and now there are only 2 of them left, the protagonist of the Sweeping Monk is also a little bit helpless. Although he felt that Sumo dared not touch him here. But what if? He didn't dare to block. He did not dare to escape. You must improve your strength and extract it at any cost. The protagonist of the Sweeping Monk has made a decision. Last time, he took advantage of the old man who was guarding the gate outside to fight, and he went up to the second floor to extract a lot of benefits. The strength is already very strong, but compared with the Earl of Moshi Land, it is far from enough. That book. Do I want to pick it up? There was a hint of hesitation on the face of the protagonist of the Sweeping Monk. He found an ancient book on a bookshelf, which contained a lot of divine energy, but that divine energy does not seem to belong to the celestial realm, but to the demon god. Although he is a demon, he can use his gold finger. Once it is extracted, it can also be used for himself. It also leaves no hidden dangers. But this is where he hesitated. In the Holy See, if something happened when he extracted it, that would be too dangerous. Those divine energies are now sealed by a magic circle that exists on the pages of that ancient book. He has a certain grasp of extraction. Once successful, his strength will be greatly improved. Try it. In the end, seeing the protagonists die one by one, the Sweeper protagonist decided to take a risk. He glanced outside, then came to the bookshelf, took off the book, and walked carefully to the innermost. Pretend to look up. He also created a very small magic circle, covering the book. Then, he loaded his gold finger and started extracting. To his surprise, his extraction went quite smoothly. Soon, those divine energy sources, to Zhao, will be continuously extracted. So good. The protagonist of the Sweeping Monk smiled. It went so well, his gold finger was really powerful. Divine energy entered Gold Finger and was quickly transformed into his own power, enhancing his strength. This transformation will take some time before the energy in his body can be completely turned into his own. Now if a strong person comes in, he will notice the abnormality of his body. So it's more adventurous. However, as far as he knew, no one would come to the library at this time, and the old man would not come in. So, as long as you're careful, it's perfectly fine. After a while, more than half of it was transformed. The transformation is about to be completed. At this time, a mutation arose. The remaining divine energy suddenly exploded. This divine energy belongs to the demon god, and as soon as it exploded, the demonic energy filled the entire library at once. Immediately afterwards, the magic prohibition in the library was triggered. All of a sudden the siren blared. Oops. The face of the protagonist of the Sweeping Monk changed dramatically. He didn't expect such a consequence at all. Indistinctly, he suddenly remembered. When the Earl of Moshi Land came to the library, he seemed to be looking for a book at random in the library. He seemed to have touched this book. Isn't this also his handwriting? The protagonist of the Sweeping Monk thought of this. If this is the handwriting of the Earl of Moshi Land, the other party is so early, even if he wants to move this book. Where does the divine energy in it come from? Although I don't think it's possible, the protagonist of the Sweeping Monk feels inexplicably. He is 100% in a trap that Sumo laid out for him early on. Bold. How dare you use the power of demons in the library? In the library, several powerhouses have surrounded him, and these powerhouses will know what happened when they are swept away. Although they don't know about his gold finger, he hasn't completely digested that divine energy in his body. It's over. The protagonist of the Sweeping Monk is desperate.